You're listening to The Honeydew with Ryan Sickler.
Welcome back to The Honeydew, y'all. It's Wednesday. We're doing it over here at your mom's house. I'm Ryan Sickler. You can find me on all social media at Ryan Sickler. My website is ryansickler.com. As I tell you every week about my album, Get a Hold of Yourself, it is still available. Because, once it's available, shit's available. And it is still available. You can get it on iTunes, everywhere. Spotify, make those channels, stream it, play it, buy it, whatever you want. I appreciate the love. For any in-town dates, go to ryansickler.com. Phoenix, I'll be out there at the House of Comedy. I'm looking forward to coming out April 4th through the 6th. I will be at the Vegas Festival April 26th and 27th. And then with our boy T-Nuts doing some June shows in Richmond, Maryland, and Atlantic City. And ways off, House of Comedy in Minnesota. And I can't thank you guys enough. I'm so many emails, so many messages. I really appreciate it. It's, tell everybody. Get everybody. If you haven't subscribed yet, if you're just listening to subscribe, man, get over there. Tell everybody who'll listen to check out The Honeydew, y'all. The website, thehoneydewpodcast.com. And you can email me, honeydewpodcast@gmail.com. And get over there and follow the show on social media. Facebook is The Honeydew Podcast. Twitter at Honeydew Pod. You'll be getting a lot more content here very soon. And if you're new to the show, hey, we're just trying to have a little fun over here with the not so fun times in life. And my guest today, it was a recommendation from our good friend Eric Abrams off of This Is Not Happening. And I'm so glad for that. And you have to watch her, This Is Not Happening. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to The Honeydew, Jessa Reed.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, thank you, Eric Abrams. Eric's a good friend, and he listens to the show, and he said, Ryan, you have to have Jessa. Go start by watching her This Is Not Happening, and I watched it. It is fantastic. He's got 2 million fucking views on a 15-minute story. That's impressive.
Thank you.
I think it is. So before we get into your story, because if you watch that or you have seen that, we're going to get into a little bit of that tonight, and plug whatever you'd like, please.
I have a podcast called Mormon and the Meth Head. It is.
Which one are you?
The Meth Head.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
I couldn't pass for the Mormon. I try sometimes. It's myself and an ex-Mormon, mostly talking about our childhood trauma. Jessa Reed Comedy at Instagram and Twitter, and just Jessa Reed on Facebook, where I do my best work. And JessaReed.com's got all my tour dates.
All right, there it is. So I had noticed that I asked Eric, where you were from, and I started seeing your story, and I'm like, holy shit! And it blows me away too that that's 2 million views. How does that not even? There's so much shit out there today that you had said you hit me up for Crab Feast. Like Tim Dillon, we wanted to get you guys on, so I'm glad to have you on here now. And I would love for you just to start from wherever you like, because you got a beginning. That's for damn sure.
I guess we should just start at the childhood. My parents were addicts. They lived in Delaware. They met in California, lived in Delaware, and then when they split up, I used to joke, because if you look at a map, the furthest my mom could get away from Delaware without leaving the country was Portland, Oregon.
Is that legit, the mileage?
Yeah, it is, like straight across on a map. And so she
wait,
moved.
Can I ask they were addicts? What were they addicted to?
They were kind of dumpsters, I guess, in the 70s. So it was just, which is a term for people that'll do anything you put
Alcohol,
on the table.
Booze, pills, whatever.
My mom was a speed freak. My mom was a meth addict. It wasn't meth back then. It was crank, but that was her primary drug of choice.
Really?
Yeah. My dad was a...
And how do you come to... I'm sorry, go ahead. I just have a million questions. I'm sorry.
My dad was like a fully functioning alcoholic addict. He could do stuff, but hold down a job and everything else. He got sober... I guess he got sober, I keep wanting to say 15 years, but I guess he's been sober for 20... I'm 42, so 20 years now.
He is.
Mm-hmm. He got addicted to crack at the end, and so he's just like a suburban dad with little kids in the house, and he's downstairs smoking crack behind the washing machine. And I guess that was like his bottom. Yeah.
How many kids?
So he has myself, but I'm like 9 and 10 years older than my little sisters, and then he and my stepmom have 2 kids.
Okay.
By this point, I think I'm off the rails somewhere when he got sober. So my mom was a non-functioning, just straight up tweaker.
And does that just mean home on the couch all day, or what does that mean? Running
just
around?
Full blown shooting up meth. She actually was, as far as the tweakers go, functioning in that we were never homeless. You know, CPS wasn't knocking on our door. She wasn't in and out of jail, but she was a drug addict. Like, she was a legit drug addict. I knew she was a drug addict, you know.
And did you saw it? You witnessed it?
I smoked my first bong hit when I was 6. 6, but it was like a joke. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't hold down the carb, which for kids these days, the carb, there used to be a hole on the back of the bong. Yeah. I realized when talking to a millennial
It's
recently.
fine. No, I'm not going to hold the carb.
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's fine.
A 3-foot hit. I'm not holding the carb. It's fine. She's 6, for Christ's sake. Quit being a pussy.
And then she was selling coke, and we had like a Jack and Jill bathroom. And I remember I thought it was hilarious. I was like 7, and she was
got this innocent Jack and Jill bathroom, like all decked out.
So I could see straight into there. Like, we both had a door, and so I went to the bathroom, and then her door was open, and then I went and just like pretended to do a line, and the dude that she was selling coke to lost his mind and left.
Because you're 6.
Yeah. I might be 7 by this point, you know, so I'm like the ripe age of 3rd grade.
Weed, gateway to coke by 7.
And he was offended because he's a pussy. And she was mad.
Get out of here, bitch.
Mom doesn't like it when you cost her customers.
So it freaked him out a little bit and he bounced?
Yeah. I remember that interaction. I remember stealing bracelets at one, because I didn't think my mom liked me. We were just having this conversation again today because
you and your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Who's now been sober for 1,000,000 years.
Okay, great.
Lives with me, takes care of my kids when I'm on the road.
Oh, awesome.
But I didn't feel wanted. I think I thought, because she was gone for a few years. She bounced when I was like 2. And to get her life together, and then I didn't see her again till I was like 5.
Do you know where that was? Like, was it hospital or was it
she
friend's
moved
place,
to the West Coast, and then I was just raised by my dad and 4 other dudes in the 70s. This is like 70s, early 80s. My dad had custody of me, and I just lived with these dudes who were great dudes, but they were like dudes in their 20s, and I just picked up a lot of dude habits, I guess, just thinking that this is like, I go in the bathroom, I just stay in the bathroom forever. I just linger in my bathroom all the time because like they would go in there and read the paper or whatever. Yeah. And to this day, like if you can't find me in my house, I'm just kicking it in the bathroom for no reason.
Place you get peace and quiet.
Well, now, I'm hiding from my children. Yeah. So she leaves. And then at some point, I'm being dramatic and say that I'm mad that my dad never got me a mom. Because the other kids at school had moms, and I just didn't remember her, I don't think. And so he brings me this, like, very sheltered. I was very sheltered, had a nice life with all these dudes. And then he brings me to live with Mom.
Full house over here. For
yeah, it was. Cousin Jesse, it was very nice. They were great dudes. And he brings me to my mom, and my mom lives in a trailer park, and she's pretending to be sober for the benefit of this interaction. You know, she wants me back.
So he flies you out.
He brings me out. He leaves me with her.
Oh, he leaves you. Okay.
And it like played into this like fear that he had that one day I wouldn't want to be with him anymore. So he felt like he was doing this "if you love them, set them free" thing. But he set me free into a trailer park, and I'm there.
Caged you right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like here, and then I earned my white trash wings. I was born for this life. Apparently,
How old are you at this point now? 9.
I'm 5.
5.
I'm 5.
That's young to be saying, "Hey." So he's like, "Here's your daughter asking for you."
Yeah.
She's been gone a couple years at this point, right?
Yeah.
And now you're 5 in a trailer park. What kind of trailer park is it?
Gross trailer park. I'm there for one day, I think, and I meet the local kids. We go down to something we called the pits, which is just this gross construction pit. I smoked my first cigarette. I learned what sex
at 5.
At 5.
Hold on, slow, because I can hear the list coming. You smoked a fucking cigarette at 5?
I smoked. I'm sure I didn't inhale.
Still.
But yeah, I was obsessed with cigarettes.
Is that an older kid,
just an
older
old
brothers
butt
of
off
someone?
the ground outside of one of our mom's trailers. Yeah.
Oh.
Just gross.
Lipstick on it and shit. Oh, that red lipstick used to be on.
Yeah. God. Just smelled like bad perfume.
Oh, man.
Learned what sex was.
At 5?
5. It was called humping.
I mean, that's more advanced than any other 5-year-old would know.
And the kids were just gross, and they were like missing teeth, but like not for the reason you're supposed to be missing teeth as kids. And they were all obsessed.
There weren't new ones on the way.
Yeah, exactly. They had mature.
You got no adult teeth is what you got going on there. Yeah, they're all in. No, they're in. They're not there yet.
So gross. They all had gross names, and they were dirty. And but I adjusted to this life immediately.
How?
I was born to be white trash.
Were you happy
to
to be with your mom? Were you? Do you remember that? Whether you okay, here she is.
I felt. Because we were trying to figure out when I got so fucked up. And we were just talking about this today. I remember sitting in this trailer. I remember there being ants in my cereal. I remember pouring milk into the cereal and letting the ants float up to the top and then scraping them out. And this was so different than how I had already lived.
Yeah.
But I feel
that ain't happening down over with Uncle Jesse. All right, Uncle Jesse ain't got ants in the cereal.
We were in a house with walls and shit, a foundation underneath it. I think I felt out of place and wanted to go home to my dad's, but didn't feel like I was allowed to ask because he tracked down a mom. And at this point, I still think that he just found me a mom. And I'm just like, you couldn't have found one with a television.
Right.
She had a TV, but it was this tiny box that didn't have a knob, so you had to be able to maneuver needle nose pliers in order to watch the TV. And so I think I hated it, but I think I'm someone who is a survivor and has never spent a ton of time thinking about things I don't like.
Yeah.
So
you are a survivor. That's for damn sure. I mean, we're only here. We haven't been past 9 in any part of this story yet.
No, right now we're still circling
we're at
6. We were only
first grade. We're in
trailer park for less than a year. So in less than a year, I have she doesn't have a doorknob, and I'm charging kids candy to watch her fuck whoever is in her. Sorry, hump.
Hey, listen, I don't know what fuck it is, but if you want to see my mom hump somebody, it's going to be $6. You got to be kidding me. You got an entrepreneur over here.
I would get those candies that my mom would never get me where you lick lick that stick and then you dip it into the powder. Fun dip. Fuck yeah. My mom wouldn't buy that, so she did buy it by me. We didn't have porn.
Holy shit. So can I ask you questions?
Yeah.
Personal?
Yeah.
So is your mom dating steady, or is she just, several guys? I mean, how's that going?
I remember one boyfriend, and I think it was probably several guys. But maybe one boyfriend. It couldn't have been long before her and my stepdad got together. So I couldn't have been there for more than a year because we were 6 by the time we moved into the house. So my stepdad comes along, we get into a real house.
How do you even think to fucking do that? Like, my mom's in there doing this, and they're all so they're all learning.
I think we're playing in the living room. My mom is very loud having sex. We go look through the doorknob, and then I see how excited the little boys are to watch this, and I realize I am missing an opportunity to put some fun dip in my pocket. So,
man, on point. Girl.
She had a lot of day sex. I mean, maybe she worked nights. I don't know. Also, get a doorknob.
For real.
Yeah.
Get
it was a sliding, because trailers don't have real doors.
Yeah.
They have just that sliding
Little
door.
slider,
and
yeah.
I don't know where her little
And the
metal plate
little
went.
cap
Yep,
popped out
yep.
of there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Cha-ching.
Wow. So you're in the trailer park for a year, and then your stepdad comes along.
Stepdad comes along. We get a house with him.
Where?
In Southeast Portland. And now we're living more of like a legit suburban life. The kids in the neighborhood were very nice.
Does he have kids?
He doesn't have kids. They end up having a kid when I'm 8.
Okay.
I end up getting molested by my best friend's dad.
Oh.
Her name was Crystal, which feels like foreshadowing.
Oh. I'm so sorry. I can't. Oh, man.
Here's what's crazy. So I start getting molested by this dude, and then
What do you mean start?
He, like, as soon as we move in there, he starts molesting me. And I don't know that I'm being molested, right? He's very smart, and that's the way that they get you to keep the secret is very smart. Like,
I don't know because I haven't been, and I have a daughter who's 4, so I want to know this. If you're comfortable, whatever you're comfortable
Oh, I'm
with,
totally
and whatever you're not, don't.
Number one, I was the child of an addict. I was a child of an addict who I didn't feel close to and clearly didn't communicate with. So I'm the primary or the perfect victim in this, and I think that these kind of people know who they can and cannot.
I read that all the time.
So you would be screwed if you try to molest one of my children, because my children would be like, "That's my vagina, and you're not supposed to touch it.
Yep.
I'm going to go home and tell my mom."
I'm already on that shit.
And I didn't have any of that. It's the 80s, man. We didn't.
Yeah.
We society just what's that word? I can't think of the word right now. But society set us up to get molested. We made it the perfect breeding ground. We didn't know what our genitals were called. We already had all of this shame and everything else. We weren't believed over adults. And this dude was like high up in some church. So now you got some Baptist
That's
pastor.
what I was going to say. I watched The Keepers, and that's what they talk about. They know the kids to go get. Boys and girls.
Yep. And then so you have a drug addict's daughter. Versus this guy who's high up in the church. And then I didn't know what was happening for a while. His wife, every day when we would, like, the bus stop was by their house, and so every day I would have to sit on his lap while he's like grinding into me. And then even his wife would be like, "Come on, Jessica, it's time to sit on his lap."
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so as a kid, you're just like, because also, once again, we used to make kids kiss adults on the mouth that didn't want to, like, we didn't respect children's body autonomy at all. So I was just like, oh, this is what we do. The other stuff that he, like, this was daily, and the other stuff he did
daily.
This was 5 days a week. Every time I went to his house, this is what I had to do in the morning before I could get on a bus. Sit on his lap. Well, now I know he was grinding his dick into me, but he was like pressing his hands between my legs in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's in the living room.
That's what I'm saying. They're there. And so he's probably doing this to his kids.
Oh, he was raping his children.
Oh, my God.
I walked into the house. He beat his wife. It was very violent and dark, and also just not crazy. So, like, at one point, his wife had run down we lived like 4 houses down. His wife had run down in front of our house with like a bloody lip and everything else. This is the 80s. It was just like if I saw that, my kid would never go in that house
ever.
Again. Ever. But in the 80s, it was just like,
that's just
they're fighting.
She probably overcooked the casserole.
Yeah.
Go down there and have fun with the kids.
And my mom did hate him. Like, my mom hated him and didn't want me around them. She did say that the hair on the back of her neck stood up, but that just made me not tell her what he was doing, which is a weird. Yeah. So, like, if I have a creepy feeling about my kid, I wouldn't let them near the person, because I would trust my intuition that this person's 100%. Bad. So then we're at school in 4th grade, and they show one of those like programs. Grooming children is the word I was looking for earlier.
Okay.
We, as society, groom children to be molested. We're watching one of these programs because this is when it's starting to come out that kids are getting molested like crazy. And so there's this is inappropriate touch. This is how people are not supposed to touch you.
I remember your bathing suit areas, and they would tell you and all that stuff.
And in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting molested.
That's when you thought. And how old are you then?
I'm 8.
And this has been going
4th
on
grade?
for 2 years?
Mm-hmm. This is like about a year and a half in. It's been 2 years. So I go to Miss Romans, my 4th grade teacher, and I tell her that's happening to me. So-and-so's dad is doing that to me. And
that's brave.
Yeah. She takes notes. And then takes notes the next week and the next week. And then just develops this strange relationship with me where she is getting a weekly digest of my sexual abuse and never does anything.
What?
Yeah. And I was
just documenting it, like writing it down, journaling it.
Gave it almost, I don't remember her physically writing anything. I remember like I could draw a picture of her. I felt very cared for by her. And like she was actually concerned, and
like a safe person to tell it to, but she didn't do anything about it.
But she never did anything. And at one point, I was very self-aware and old for how young I was. And at one point, I realized because I was nuts, I was unhinged shortly after he started molesting me. But I realized I had no credibility, and so.
And you're telling her who this guy is, and he's the person in the church and all that, so they know all that stuff.
And she knows my friend, and so he's also molesting a girl that lives across the street.
Oh my God! How do you all find this out? You compare notes?
And the girl across the
parents?
Street talked about, because she would have to do the lap thing every morning also. So at some point, I'm like, her and I are in the same class, and I'm like, that he does that to us. And I remember thinking she has more credibility, so I just have to get her in on this. I'm 8 and I'm thinking about credibility. And so she gets in and she's talking about it. And then Miss Romans is just taking notes from us. But she kind of like doesn't, the darker things that he was doing to me, he wasn't doing those to her. She was just getting that weird jerking himself off with our bodies in the morning.
Oh.
His thing though, when I would try to like get away from it would be to like, God, you're so gross. Like, you're gross. Why doesn't your mom give you a bath? You know, like, just like nag you.
Yeah,
you know?
nag. I learned about that.
And man, that became a permanent part of my, like, that's something that's programming I'm still trying to remove from my mind. Anyway, she never does anything. 5th grade comes, and I end up telling someone else.
You still at this point have not told your mom?
I still have not told my mom.
Or your dad?
Mm-mm.
Uncle Jesse don't know?
No.
All right.
They're in Delaware, and Dad becomes, Dad's on like a pedestal. I go there in the summer. I'm getting progressively weirder. I went out there for Christmas at like 6 or 7, shortly after starting getting molested, and wouldn't speak like a person the entire time I was there. I crawled around on all fours and only barked and would only act like a dog, insisted on eating on the floor, and is very frustrating for him. And very,
I mean, he sent you away, and that's you come back to that. And I'm obviously what's going on. You're fucking just.
They just didn't know this shit back then. Like now, people would be like, "Whoa," you know. But we were just not self-aware back then. It was all about don't spoil your kids, and everything was a disciplinary thing.
You got don't talk to strangers.
Yep.
You got don't do drugs. Say no to drugs is what it was. Don't drink and drive. And
everything was so black and white.
Yes, it was very black and white. And I remember when that Adam shit happened. That boy that was kidnapped and decapitated and all that shit. And that was when they were like, have a password. If a stranger comes over to you and says, "Oh, your parents came to," what's the password?
Yeah.
And if they don't say, whatever the fucking password is, you just don't go.
Yep.
But and then just say no to strangers. Don't let anybody touch you. That was it. It was the basics.
We spent a lot of time talking about like strangers kidnapping you, but the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of sexual abuse is suffered at the hands of someone that the parents trusted.
And no,
yep,
100%. I read that all the time. So you go, all right. So you go to see your dad,
I tell someone else.
You tell someone
Miss
else.
Romans, it's mad at me, and is like
For telling someone else?
Yeah, like I fucked up her investigation or something like that. I only had 18 months to work on this. God damn it!
I guess it's going to be a mystery now. God damn it! We'll have to leave this chapter out here.
I'm forced to tell my mom because Miss Romans is mad at me, and I think it's going to get back to my mom anyway. The whole neighborhood's freaking out, and my mom is like, "Well, we have to move." And I was 9, and I understood that my mom's a drug addict, and that this dude's like a church guy, and that no one's going to believe me, and that we should just move. Like, I remember being like, yeah, that's the right move. I understood.
Because they're not going to do anything to this fucking
Nobody's
going to
do anything.
Just like they haven't done anything to any of them.
Nope. And I'm so glad that that's the way we went, because it would have probably caused a lot more damage. He's dead, so who cares?
Not good.
So now we're in a new neighborhood, and I'm extra weird. And mom's addiction gets bad, and tweakers are living in our house.
Where's your stepdad? Is he also an addict? Or?
So he, at this point, is maybe smoking crack, but also another like functioning. He was a tax accountant, but was a drunk. And so he was drunk all the time. And it's me and my little sister and some tweakers living in the house that are awful to me. And I end up leaving when I'm like 12 and going to Delaware. And
so you're back in Delaware.
Yeah. Now, so this is the first time. Before that, I was with my mom during the school year, and then out at dad's in the summer. And now I am out at dad's house. He's got 2 small kids, and
he remarried.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And very close with both my step parents. Considered them parents. That part was pretty great. I had 3 sisters. So my mom had one when I was 8. And then my dad and stepmom had 9 and
Even
10.
with the addiction and everything, they had another kid.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was a weird anomaly for as hardcore she was doing drugs.
So how do you even take
she
care of a kid?
She was still,
Yeah.
like, we had it better than any other kids of drug addicts at her level. Like, our house was always very clean. There was always hot food. Like, not a lot of warmth and affection and stuff like that.
The shit you need.
Yeah.
But there's mac and cheese in the cabinet. Some rolls down on the Lazy Susan.
And she'll tell you, because my mom's childhood was crazy. And so she'll tell you that, like, she thought that's what she was like doing an impression of a mom. And I carried that into, like, I had to read books. I was an awful mom to my oldest, and then had to like read books on attachment to try to be affectionate to my younger kids. It's not something that comes naturally to me at all. So I moved to dad's house and then just ruined their life. Like, they just have little kids, and I am a fucking
all the dudes
nightmare.
are gone at this
The
point.
dudes are
right?
gone.
He's remarried.
He's
2 kids?
2 small kids.
How small?
I'm 12, so they're like 3 and 4.
Whew, yeah.
And the
2 little toddlers plus
the youngest was a fucking nightmare. She was like high need, is what we would know as high need now. So it's the kind of kid that needs to sleep with you at night, needs to be held at all times. They didn't know what that meant back then. And so she would just scream all night. So no one's sleeping. And then I am a nightmare. And I am,
and at this point, are you still smoking weed? Are you still doing any drugs, drinking? Are you doing any of that at this
started
point?
doing any of that
You
yet.
just tried that stuff at that early
like the
age.
adults let me take a bong hit when I was 6, but I didn't. It didnn't take.
The people in charge.
At 12, as soon as I got out to Delaware, I'm in like 7th grade, and I did definitely like want to start getting fucked up. Like, that was, I wanted. It never resonated to me that anybody should be in charge of me. I felt like an autonomous being and an adult from the time I was like 10. So I didn't like school.
Well, you'd been through more by 10 than a lot of your friends' parents had.
Yeah. So it just didn't make sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just didn't.
Like, Shirley's just over there checking at the grocery. Yeah. You're over here bong ripping at 6, girl.
Checking in with my PO.
Shirley's like, I've never even tried marijuana.
I was a liar, a bad liar. The impression my dad does of me and my sisters is he was like, when they were teenagers, they all did the same thing. But Sam would get caught and then just take her lumps and be like, yeah, I snuck out.
Did that,
yeah. And then Allie would get caught and then fight the punishment and be like, that's not fair. I only did this. Da, da, da. And then I would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I snuck out and then come home and they have put the screen back in the window and locked me out, you know, and then I have to like break into a different part of the house. And in the morning, they're like, where were you last night? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, we sat here. And I was like, you must have been sitting on me. You must not have seen me. Like, I just would not. I could not tell the truth. Yeah. No. I was also super full of shit. Like, super full of shit. I now know that probably not feeling heard on the bad things that did happen made me feel like I needed to constantly, like, generate things to try to get that attention. I was obsessed with attention. I did a lot of time in mental institutions in my teen years.
When did you, so what led to that?
I lost my virginity and within 24 hours was locked up in a mental institution. Yeah. I had been in therapy for 2 years. The guidance counselor had called my parents in junior high and been like, I think she could benefit. She acts pretty provocatively. And I think I had just watched like too many Sharon Stone movies. So I was like always trying to fuck my teachers and stuff. Just for like a story. I don't think I was even attracted to them, but it's just like.
Jessa, stop crossing your legs, girl. It's math class. Jesus Christ.
Also, you're wearing Z Cavaricis.
Get up here and clean the boards there, for Christ's sake.
Oh.
Would you dress that way?
No. I had body dysmorphia. So
how old were you when you lost your virginity?
14.
So literally virginity, jail, 14. I mean mental institute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like within 24 hours.
Was it like a hold? Where were you? Where did they? Or they took you to a hospital?
They took me to a hospital.
Why? What happened?
So I lose my virginity to a guy I don't even like.
How old is he?
He was one of those like 17-year-old 8th graders. You know.
Driving her by 8th grade graduation and shit.
Oh, cystic acne. It was a mess. I did not like him. We fought all the time, but I was just like, I don't want to be a virgin anymore. My parents are going out of town. I'm supposed to be staying at Kristen's house. I'm going to come to your house. You're going to have sex with me. And he's like, all right. And then we have sex.
You told him this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have sex and it's awful. I mean, the sex was whatever. It's never going to be good your first time.
No.
But I was... like I felt awful, and I still have this. I felt shame and guilt, and like the walls were closing in on me, and it just got progressively worse. And then I started like fake hallucinating. I was just up in my room screaming at the top of my lungs.
You going back home?
Mm-hmm. It's like the next day.
So the next day you're by yourself? At home because your parents are gone?
They're downstairs. My stepmom's downstairs, and I'm just screaming upstairs in my bedroom and just throwing things and pretending to hallucinate, which is odd. And
but you knew you were pretending to hallucinate.
Mm-hmm. But I had a very I had the ability to I can tell you now that I knew I wasn't actually hallucinating, but the flimsy grip I had on reality back then was there was no thoughts in my conscious mind about the fact that this wasn't really happening.
It wasn't a possible 8-year-old acid flashback.
No, yeah, right. So it was like the things that weren't real felt very real.
I hear you
back then, like disassociating. I guess is that what that is? So, they call my therapist. And then I'm like, I didn't get molested by that guy. I got raped by him.
You're going back to the neighbor.
Yeah, I'm talking about that. Okay. But he didn't. This is not true. Right? Gotcha. And so they tell my therapist, we don't think this is true. And she said, this is way worse if it's not true.
To actually say that.
Yeah. These symptoms with it not being true, you have a bigger problem on your hand than if she is actually having like repressed memory syndrome or whatever, which is just something that was getting talked about on Oprah. And I didn't get honest about this for a long time, so I didn't think much of it. Now I look back and I'm like, nobody reacted when I got molested and when he just did do heinous things to me. And so
it just blows me away. No one, and there's a chain of people there too, not one of them.
And we just didn't talk about it. Like nobody asked for details. And it just sent the message to me that I deserved it. And now we talk and my parents feel awful.
Sure.
And they're like, we just didn't know if it was true back then, the real things. Didn't know if it was true because you were kind of off. And it's like, yeah, when did I get off? Like, when did I start acting weird?
Yeah,
who was I before
moment.
I was 6?
That's
yeah.
Right.
And it was a different time, you know? So, but all of that was just boiling underneath the surface. And the second I lost my virginity, I just get triggered back into this. I'm usually much funnier than this. This is
What are you talking about?
So
so you lose your virginity and it just triggers everything.
It triggers
being 6 again.
Yep. And now I'm in a mental institution. And what I have found, there's a youth in Delaware. There was a youth mental institution.
Really?
With multiple units and a shit ton of teenagers in it. Because this would be what, like 92?
Shit ton. How many are we talking, you think? 100?
Probably.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was, I had like 20 on my unit, maybe 60. Because this is the early 90s. So you got all this kind of shit happening where they think that every kid listening to heavy metal is worshiping Satan.
Right, yeah,
you know, this was a weird,
it was a weird
era.
For a bit there.
And I now have I have an audience. I have a captive audience. I have a place where I can act out and everyone will stop what they're doing and pay attention to me. I can get strapped down in a quiet room. There's just like a room with a leathery mattress, like plastic mattress and leather restraints. And
you welcomed that?
I loved it.
You did.
I loved it.
It didn't make you feel
I loved
restricted or
I've been to adult mental institution and the kid one's much nicer. I have to say that as an adult, I was like, this is not how I remember. Where's the popcorn in the movie night? This is fucking awful.
Oh my God.
I only went back once as an adult. It was like, God, this is like visiting Disneyland, isn't it? Fuck this. I loved it. I didn't want to leave. I didn't. It was.
What was that? What you loved? The attention.
The attention.
You did.
The attention was huge. The kids. I wasn't this I wasn't this outcast because we were all the same.
Yeah, you felt part
we were
of
all a
something,
mess. All day was talking about trauma, and I felt heard for the first time in my life. And then it was all this like occupational therapy where you're just like making leather belts and shit, but everything's just about your feelings and I was just processing trauma is what I was doing, but I was also just hurt, and I did not want to leave. And so when I get out, I'm now doing crazy things to get put back in. I think my parents' insurance ran out after 30 days, so I was cured. Because this shit was like $750 a day or something.
Holy
bananas
shit,
back then.
Back then too, yeah.
So then I have to get put back in. And so I think the next time I threw a chair.
You're intentionally trying to go back. Okay.
Yeah. I'm institutionalized. I just want to be in the institution. I throw a chair at my stepmom at some point. I am in and out of that hospital throughout 8th grade. I don't think I passed I think I just got bounced out of 8th grade. 9th grade.
Are you required to do any schoolwork while you're in there?
You did do schoolwork during the day. They would just like your school would send your books and assignments and you would do them there. And I did well in school while in an institution. Okay. In actual school, I failed every grade.
You did?
Yeah. Terrible student. So in 9th grade, they put me into a day hospital where I get picked up by a small bus and taken to the hospital, and just like a regular hospital, and on the mental health ward or whatever, and go to school there.
At a hospital?
Uh-huh. Yeah, they just called it a day hospital, and then I would do therapy and stuff there, and then come back home. I was principal's list
to the other hospital,
to my real house.
Oh, to your real house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is no more mental hospital in the financial whatever. So this was their solution, and I was there for 1 semester. And in 1 semester, I was principal's list honor roll.
Wow.
Back at the high school that I was supposed
Hell
to be
yeah.
in.
Well, congrats on that.
And was another semester ahead, because if you just handed me my books and papers, I would just be great.
Right.
But if you put me in a classroom with
You try to
with
fuck
kids,
the teacher.
yeah. Exactly. Fuck, you know me. Little preoccupied with being provocative. I get picked up by this bus, and I...
it's a Monday to Friday, same type deal.
And I was so full of shit. I was so full of shit all the time. I had to be talking at all times, and then I didn't realize that my life was already very interesting. I was into my 20s before I was like, oh, my life is already fascinating. I don't need to keep making things up. But I just wanted to be every statistic. And so I convinced...
You wanted to check all the boxes.
Yeah. And I did become all of these things. But at some point, I convinced the bus driver that I'm a teenage mom. And I have been showing her pictures of my little sister and saying it's my daughter. And then every day when I would get on the bus, I was like, man, long night last night.
And you carried that shit out. You slow played it. This fucking girl's teething up a god. Yeah. Look at this. I mean, I love her to death, but man, a little whiskey on the gums, you know what I'm saying?
But it's Delaware, I'm used to lying in Portland where you have some fucking anonymity. Delaware, everyone knows each other.
There's 10 people there. Yeah.
So that bus driver goes to the bar where my stepmom is the bartender. And she's like, yeah, man, I drive Jessica. Man, that kid is amazing. I can't believe she takes care of her baby all night and then goes to school. And my stepmom's like, what? And she was like, yeah, her daughter. And
look
my
at this picture of her, right?
And she's describing her, and my stepmom's like, that's my daughter's baby pictures.
What are you doing with the picture
were
of my
so
daughter?
mad.
Oh,
God.
my God. That's fucking great. I love that it came back. That one came back on you.
And I would just every single morning just get on there and just talk.
What happened after she found out that wasn't true?
I think I just tried not to go to school.
But that all falls into line with the attention.
Yeah.
Full of shit
obsessed.
Is still, but that's how you got the attention.
Yeah. I just wanted, I needed an audience. And I didn't
matter about
realize
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who give a fuck about that? You're already living your truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was this is how I learned how to tell stories.
Yeah.
This is making them up. I did become a teenage mom later. I just needed to wait until the ripe age of 16.
Oh my God.
At one point, my parents, I knew I would be a star when I was a kid. I was like, I'm going to be a star. I would sign people's autographs from the time I was very young. And at one point, my dad was like, maybe the solution is to give her a creative outlet. I'm going to get her involved in a local theater. So he told me to find a song to sing, and I was auditioning for A Child's Christmas in Wales, which is just this fucking Christmas play, right?
Okay.
I pick a song called "Oh Father" by Madonna that's just about getting molested by your dad.
God, no.
My dad does not vet the song. He buys me the music for it.
Oh my God.
He takes me to this audition, the lady's playing it, and it's like, it's funny that way. You can get used to the hurt and the pain. What a child will believe you never loved me. And also I can't sing, so I'm belting these awful words.
Oh my
My dad
God.
was like, I started to tune into the song and then realized like, oh my God, what does she do? Like, and the vibe gets very strange.
I'm sure. I gotta think it would get a little strange in there.
And then they're like, we want like a Christmas song. Do you know any
Like
Christmas songs? And I was like, you never loved me.
Oh my God.
The chorus is like, you can't hurt me now. I got away from you. I never thought I would.
I could do that in the tune of Rudolph. But we're not changing these lyrics, all right? I'll change the 2.
I didn't get the part.
You're too much.
At 15, I get drunk at a.
We're going year by year. This is, please continue.
My poor dad and stepmom. So I.
All right, so hold on. We're going to come back to 15 in a second. During all this, what's going on with Mom? Are you seeing her? Does she come to visit at all? Have you checked in at all?
At 12, I leave. At 12, I leave Portland, and I'm so mad at her that I refuse to ever go back. I write a poem called "Mommy Dearest" that is heart-wrenching, and then I get it published. It's very good.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
And just was fucking back then you could send poems in to get published in whatever books. I think it's just a scam to sell the books, but it gets published. I frame it and mail it to her.
Oh my.
And this is signature Jessa, which is if you hurt me and I love you, I will cut my leg to get out of the trap and get away from you and then make you pay. And so this was, I didn't, she came out when I was in the mental hospital because at that point they're like, we need to sort reality out and we need her here because Jessa saying all these things. Also, my name, at this point, I changed my name to Jessa. Okay. I refused to acknowledge Jessica was my real name.
Okay, birth is Jessica. And you actually officially changed it.
I
or you
officially
just said
changed
to everyone,
it.
call me
At
this.
first, I was like, my name is Jessa now. And I remember thinking all these things like Jessica is weak. Jessica let all these things happen. Jessica must die. Like I had all these very around that time. Yeah, that's no more ick for me.
No more.
And people would try to call me Jessica and I just would ignore them and force everybody into this. So alter ego has taken over. Mom comes out while I'm in the mental institution and is just defensive, which is, understandable. She's a drug addict and her kid's a mess and everyone's mad and they kind of fought and whatever. So then I don't go back out there until I'm almost 15, I guess. So drugs and alcohol start at 15. The first time I get drunk, I steal my sister's silver dollar collection that my stepmom, the bartender, had collected for them. And I pay a
like
bum.
in that little thing they had in the circles. You had them all.
Yeah, and I'm just like shimming them out and switching them out with quarters. No, she kept them in like a jar or something.
This fucking holder's terrible, man. These are all loose in here. These silver dollars everywhere.
They are eroding. I gave them to a hobo who then went in and bought me Cisco, which is like
liquid crack.
Mad Dog, right?
I know Cisco very well, unfortunately. But wait, you did this by yourself at 15?
No, me and my cousin, who was my best friend, and then we take the Cisco, we put it into sports bottles. These things
like
with
the squeeze ones?
Straws.
Yeah.
And we put them inside of our starter jackets. This is when starter jackets were hot shit. And then we go to the Christiana skating rink, which is where we used to go every Saturday, and I would sneak out and get fingered or whatever. But like this time
I'll be out right after speed skate, girl. All right, I'll be out here drinking my Cisco.
It seemed like a great place to get drunk. In retrospect, it's not a good place to drink. I was so hammered that at some point I lost my skates and I'm just scooching around the skating rink in my socks and sloshing Cisco everywhere. And I get pulled off of the rink.
You're out on the the rink.
Yeah. I have no idea where the skates went. I don't remember
Cisco,
losing them.
Fuck you
Fuck you
up.
up.
You
So
got at the
very
roller
first-
rink, lost my skates.
Very first time I ever drank, and I have a 40-ounce fucking sports bottle, and I'm just chugging on it. I am wasted. They pull me off the skating rink, and they were like, "You're drunk," and I said, "I'm not." And I'm like, "Well, can't you give me like a test to prove that I'm sober?" And they were like, "Fine, walk in a line." And I was like, "Can I take my skates off first?" Skates have been long gone, right? So they're like, if you can't
around
tell
your neck and shit.
whether or not you are wearing footwear, that's your sobriety test. So I get into the
come back on a couple skates of my own. Job.
Carry me. They
Did they call your parents?
They wanted to call my parents, but I told them that
it was the 80s.
That my mom was dead and that my dad had given me up for adoption and that my adopted parents were in Hawaii for the weekend.
Why? Oh
and
my God.
till I started vomiting. And then once I started vomiting, I was like, 302. 323. His name's Tom. By the time Tom got there, I had convinced them that I was a late stage alcoholic.
Yeah, I would say so. But hey, killed it at the limbo, though. I don't know how the fuck she did it, but she won the limbo while we were waiting on it.
That I'd had a drinking problem since I was 10.
10.
And this is the first time I ever drank, but I have convinced this room of people so that by the time my dad gets there, these people, because we did read a book about a teenage alcoholic in a class or something. So I'm just like,
He's just walking into people looking at this motherfucker like,
my
this
poor
piece of
fucking
shit.
dad. This is right after I just accused him of molesting me at an audition.
Oh, God.
So my dad walks in and I am crying and everyone is coddling me. And I look up and I'm like, Dad, I have a problem. And they're like, you're being so brave. And my dad's like, you have several problems. Get in the fucking car. And they were like, no, listen, Tom, I know. Listen, she wants to come clean.
They're telling them. They got your back, man.
Oh, how
She's trying to
fucking
tell you something.
exhausting.
Somebody give me a fucking piece of pizza, and we're getting the fuck out of here, goddamn.
Where are your fucking skates?
Holy shit, he's walking into that mess.
God, my poor dad.
Geez.
I puked down the side of his Astro minivan.
He's driving a minivan. He just, you know what I mean? He's already there.
Fuck. Gets home. My dad did not fuck around. My dad got me up at 7 o'clock in the morning and was like, today you're cleaning bathrooms. My dad did not fuck around. The first time I smoked pot, I guess it was laced with PCP.
Yes.
Yeah.
My brother and a friend of mine did that to a girl I was seeing one time, and I was like, you didn't tell her that? I go, why would you not? Because she was like, that
the
tastes
worst.
weird. I'm like, well, we thought she knew. I'm like, who the fuck just assumes a joint's laced with PCP? Like, this is PCP, right? Nah, that's just regular weed. Oh, well, that ain't for me then. Thanks, man. I thought that was laced up.
We thought you assumed. Why? Because you're a dick?
Because they were being assholes, and that poor girl freaked the fuck
What did
out.
she act like?
She got really paranoid after she, I think the anxiety of like, I just smoked PCP and I didn't want to fucking smoke PCP freaked her out first.
Yeah.
And then it carried her into more paranoia, and then she just passed out.
It's terrible.
And she slept. And she was a little girl, slender, slept. And I say that because after she woke, she missed the whole fucking Lollapalooza. When she woke up, she ate. She ate like a fucking hostage. I've never seen it.
Holy shit.
And I told my brother and our friend, I go, you two did this to her. You're buying her whatever the fuck she wants to eat. That's your penalty for this. And she was eating at concert prices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Where
plates
she was
of
just
falafel.
sleeping at the concert?
Passed out completely. And I just sat there with her and made sure she was breathing and took care of her. And just, and this was the Lollapalooza when Kurt Cobain, maybe he didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
But Kurt Cobain shot himself, and then Smashing Pumpkins stepped in, and we went and saw it in West Virginia. And they, we all had weed, but they had that one joint. And she just went over thinking everyone had the same thing.
Yeah.
They don't tell her. Boom, she has a horrible experience.
Who
but it cost them a lot of
purposefully
money.
smokes PCP?
Right?
It's
Seriously.
the worst. So I had never smoked weed before, so I just thought this is weed. But in retrospect, after having smoked a lot more weed, I'm like, oh, I was gone. And we had like prepared for it and bought Visine and then went out. And I remember them ordering it and asking we went to Philly and they asked for wet, which is laced with PCP, but I didn't know that back then. This is my first drug deal. And then we go back and we're like in this marsh area and we smoke it and everything gets real weird. And then I have to go home.
You're outdoor in a marsh area?
Yeah, like
None of this sounds bad.
No, it's about these dudes. I think were trying to fuck us, but
I
like
would
good
imagine,
luck
yeah.
while my face is melting and shit. We get to the house and I'm looking for Visine. I'm like tweaking through my bag looking for Visine for so long because time is weird on PCP that my dad is just standing in the doorway by the time I get out. and I don't have any Visine. So I walk up and pretend cry, and I'm like, me and Chris broke up. And then I run upstairs because that's like my excuse for my eyes. I get in his bathroom. I'm putting peroxide in my eyes.
That's pretty quick thinking to be on PCP for your first fucking time.
Yeah. My dad feels horrible. He's like, God,
I told you Chris wasn't any good for you, girl.
He said, I didn't even know you had a boyfriend, is what he said. Because I did not. Chris is a fictional character. And then I get upstairs. I'm hiding in my bedroom.
Chris have your roller skates? Never show up.
No, but he might have my Visine. Fucking poor dad.
Man.
He comes upstairs with my stepmom, and they want to give me a pep talk about love, right? And I can't focus on what they're saying without the TV's plot getting mixed into what they're saying.
No.
So my response, I'm fucked up.
They're trying to have a real moment for a change.
And I can't remember what my response was because I think it was like a cop show. So I was
going
like,
to say you got Law and Order bullshit going on in the background.
I won't know until I get back from the station. And they were like, ugh. And I could just see the look on my dad's face. Like, this bitch is fucking high. God damn it. God damn it.
Chris ain't even real, is it?
He's a character on SVU. Fuck.
Holy shit. You don't even have a license yet.
No.
That's where I know you don't even
I was never going to get one.
You have lived 10 lives.
No, I was married before I got a driver's license. I liked weed. I liked it. I wanted to keep doing it. And so I thought this is...
But you couldn't just smoke weed or you couldn't just drink beer.
My dad was strict, like compared to...
No, I don't mean... I mean later.
Yeah. I did.
You shouldn't be doing that at 50. I mean, I didn't start till I was 21, and that's late.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. When I sit and listen to people come on here...
I heard you
like,
talking to Tim. Tim was a lot younger than I was.
Yeah, a lot younger. Tim Dillon we're talking about, for sure, yeah.
This became the motivation to forgive my mom because I'm like, I bet mom lets me smoke weed. And so I agree to go out and see mom for Christmas. I haven't seen mom in years. I get out there. Damn right she lets me smoke weed. And I'm high as fuck with mom. And now mom's cool. Like mom, this is the shit.
Yeah. Fucking shower of weed open.
Yep. So
she's letting you do it. She knows you're
she's smoking weed with me, and
15.
it's fine. Mm-hmm.
Smoking weed at 15.
Yep.
All right.
I go back to dad's house, and I'm like, I want to live with mom. And so I finish out ninth grade. I fail. And I failed most grades. A lot of times I got passed just because I was so weird they didn't want to deal with me. But like sixth grade, I failed and had to do summer school. And then ninth grade, I failed. And but then I just moved back to Portland, and my mom says, you can smoke weed. We'll have to see what happens during the school year. And so all summer I'm smoking weed. I get hooked up with a crew of wannabe gangsters. Now it's 93.
And what are wannabe gangsters? Guys? You're talking about guys?
Yeah,
guys
we were
girls?
like, I don't know what the other girls my age were idolizing, but I wanted to be Ice Cube. And so we walked around. I dressed like the characters in Boys of the
Hood. You had
Hood.
your starter jacket? Mm-hmm. What jacket
sagging
you have?
pants. I had Raiders because I like the black and white, and I also had a Giants one. But sagging pants, we were breaking into cars. You know, we walked around with like dent pullers. I was obsessed with, I wanted to be in a gang so bad. And I kept trying to get beat into gangs. And then there were real gangs. Yeah. And it wasn't happening. They're like, we're not going to punch you in the face. Get the fuck out of here.
And it's domestic violence and shit too.
Yeah.
Assault.
Listen, these gang members were fantastic, by the way. Like, I met a lot of them trying to get into their gangs, and they were just like, we're not going to beat you up, idiot. And then at one point, I was getting assaulted by a group of, like, football player, cheerleader pieces of shit, you know, frat boy kind of people. And one gang member that I had met while trying to get beat into his gang walked over and, like, threatened them, shit. And they all stopped. Yeah. So my experiences with gangsters are great people, but they don't want me in their gangs. School starts and I just don't go, and my mom doesn't know because she's fucked up on drugs. And so I just get up at some point in the morning and just leave all day.
And where do you go?
I mostly did acid. I found somebody who would like front me acid, sucker. And I would just trip balls and
by yourself, or you have a
with like I would get like friends. They all went to school, so I would get them to skip on different days. Right. The crew of kids that I was with were all boys, and they were like Longoria brothers. Their parents were like real Mexican mafia, and they were in CSD custody. And
really?
And they were cool because they would just like run away from their foster homes, and we would kick it. And then Ricky Bailey was I don't know. He says dad was like Asian mafia or whatever. We were all wannabe gangsters, so it's hard to tell. The Longorias were legit for sure. I know that. Another kid named Brian who huffed so much paint that he became brain dead like while we were friends. Like
really?
He became someone who like needs medical help around the clock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Those were fun.
Paint.
Yeah, like anything he could like anything.
What's that movie William H. Macy played in it, and he does that the whole time. He's just always pouring like something on a rag,
yeah,
and he's just sniffing a rag.
Gas,
all
the stuff
long,
for
all of it.
cleans
Butane,
keyboards, all of it.
All the air dusters and shit.
And just ate his brain. He was talking about all the green monsters he could see and stuff. And we all did like a lot of drugs, but so I get in trouble with the law. I start running away from home a lot, and I get picked up by the cops a few times, and then my mom starts covering for me when I get picked up and doesn't tell them that I had run away because they said she's going to JD, like juvenile hall or whatever, if we catch her again. And I get fucked up on cold pills one night and pass out in a mud puddle and almost drowned.
Jesus.
And the ambulance asked me if I was trying to take my life. They say I said yes. I don't remember saying yes. But then they asked me where I live, and I said I'm on the run. And they were, when they contacted my mom, she was like, no, she was home tonight, which I hadn't been home in weeks. And so they don't have a grip on reality, so they put me in another mental institution.
Jesus.
Now I'm here and I don't want to be here. And
it's not as nice as the kid.
It was not a nice one. This is not an adult one, but this was like I didn't like this one or the adult one.
There's a tween right here.
Yeah, I had a caseworker. I named her God. She hated it, like because I felt that's how it felt to me. It felt like you think you're my authority, you're my fucking caseworker. Like I need a person to be in charge of my life, Karen. You know what I mean? I don't know. Let's ask God. Should we be having this meeting without consulting God? I think God. What do you think, God? She hated me. My mom smuggled cigarettes in for me at some point.
Your mom's gangster.
She was
Your
gangster.
Mom's gangster.
My mom was planning my breakout. Like she was trying to procure a fucking blowtorch powerful enough to get through the acrylic windows.
Tie your bed sheets to this bumper. Hurry up.
My mom was gangster as fuck. Like when I got locked up, my mom was like,
we're going to bust you out.
This like ragtag group of wannabe gangsters and my mom were going to like break me out. I get caught smoking a cigarette in my bathroom because I lean up against the nurse call button.
And that's a no-no? No smoke?
Big
nothing.
no-no. Big no.
And you fucked yourself on that.
Fucked myself hard. Leaned up against a call. I was like, oh, this is so relaxing. Then they all talked to me like I was a felon. Like she was like, oh, you're the one that had the smoke. You're the smoker. And I was like, it was a cigarette, not crack.
Yeah, right. That's my dad.
Oh my God. I somehow get out of there after trying to Sharon Stone a pastor that comes in to see me. And the doctor.
Yeah, what do you mean? Let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you a personal question. If they would have gone for it, would you have done it? Or was it more manipulation?
I didn't want to keep getting into dark sexual stuff, but only because I didn't want to be a buzzkill on your podcast. But at this point, everyone I've had sex with makes me feel like the guy I've lost my virginity to, unless the sex is wrong. Unless I'm getting the person to do something wrong. So by 15, I've had sex with a lot of grown men.
So consensual sex feels terrible.
feels terrible.
But the opposite, something, whatever that is, whether it's
but if
grown men, you're saying.
if I found a way to make that
At
person
15?
feel like they've done something awful, yeah. So I'm fucking my neighbor who's I'm babysitting for. I'm fucking his friends.
And you're how old?
15.
And how old are they?
20s, 30s.
What?
Yeah.
His friend too?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And just wasn't crazy. There was like a house I partied at. It was like the cool mom or whatever. And she had like a 30-year-old
for right there.
Yep.
The cool mom.
Yep.
Anytime there's the cool parent, that means the other parent's got to be the fucking asshole because they're the one doing all the shit.
Yep.
Hopefully
Yep.
there's one.
Yep. The mom that lets you get high at her house.
Yeah, the cool mom.
And she had a boyfriend who was late 20s. She was in her 40s, but she had a boyfriend that was in his late 20s, who I'm pretty sure had sex with me.
What?
Because I think that's how I got banned from the house. But she had a roommate that was in his 30s that I would wake up. I would drink 40s at their house and pass out and then wake up and this dude was having sex with me. And I didn't realize that was rape until like a year ago.
What do you mean?
I just felt that I like the mentality of that era, I guess. And then also just the way I am with life. I just thought that's what happens when you drink.
You thought you were going with it and blacked out and don't remember?
Just like if you get drunk around a guy, that like they have the right to do that.
Man.
This was
this guy was in his 30s?
I think he was 30.
And you're 15?
I'm 15.
Good God.
And it didn't it didn't occur to me. Yeah. When this was like the when people shit on millennials and stuff, I'm like when people started saying rape culture, I rejected it at first. I was like, no, like I didn't like the idea of thinking that I was a victim to all of these things, you know.
Right, yeah.
I like the fact that I take responsibility for anything that happens to me because it feels like weakness to say like, oh no, you were a victim in this situation. So when it happened, I was just like, well, that's what you get for falling asleep.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Man.
yeah, just like a year ago, I was like, oh my God, what a gross, you know, like, I mean, I was an old 15-year-old, but I definitely.
But still, you're 15. Mm-hmm. This guy's 30.
30.
Oh,
gross.
That's fucking disgusting.
I mean, he lived in her basement, so. Yeah, so if it wasn't fucked up like that, though, if it wasn't some kind of like weird situation like that, it triggered difficult things. I think because that gave me an excuse to feel ashamed, and so it felt how it felt. You know, it like lined up on the same frequency. Yeah. So I get in the mental hospital, then I get put in CPS custody because it's obvious my mom's on drugs. They send me to live with my grandmother. I move in with my grandmother. She's a hardcore born-again Christian. At this point in my life, if I could pinpoint what made me want to get fucked up, I felt like there was more to life. I felt like the widely accepted version of reality didn't feel right to me. I felt like a person who had been dropped off on a planet. I felt like an alien with magic powers who had been dropped off on a planet full of people that were like worker bees. And it seemed I had like a homesickness about me. I was doing acid one day because my grandmother would bring me to this church, and one day I was high on acid. And
at the church?
Mm-hmm. I was like, I had left and come back, and then I'm like just finishing out my acid trip. I've been gone all day. And because they do church in the morning and at night on Sundays. It's fucking excessive. And I get invited back to some, and Wednesdays, some youth group thing. And that night they're all praying for each other and like slaying each other in the spirit. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you pray and the people fall down?
Oh, yeah. I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens to me. And I think, this is the thing I've been looking for my entire life. I'm looking for this magic. And I get saved. And I quit doing drugs.
The Holy Ghost is in you.
Yep.
You quit doing it?
I quit doing drugs. I quit drinking. I quit having sex. I quit cussing. And I become the most irritating evangelical Christian you've ever met.
I'm playing acoustic guitar next week, guys. Wow, but you stopped it all right there?
Yeah.
Like that?
That night. I was like, I'm a Christian now. And the kids, the youth group was like one of these very popular hip youth groups that like they have a rap group and a dance group and whatever. And I was a little bit of an outcast in that group. And so
Can I ask you quickly, like, you found whatever it is, I don't care what it is, especially for someone that's troubled, as long as it's helping them, it's a good thing. But where did you find the courage all of a sudden, and how, like, when these men would come and try to come at you, did you stand up for yourself and say, no, I'm a Christian now? Or, like, how did you ward off the, here's some acid, here's some weed? Because it's all around you. It literally is in your home.
So at this point, I'm in my grandma's custody. And so it's very easy for me to
so
I was having to go way far out of my way to live my old lifestyle at my grandma's house.
You weren't seeing mom at all, or going over there here and there and getting...
Very little. I remember when I first moved in with my grandmother, we found out that my friend's parents were growing weed. And so we stole like 5 ounces of weed from them. But it wasn't dry yet. Like they were drying it. We ripped all the buds off. And so I had like just these like 5 ounces of wet buds that needed to be dried. And I was like just trying to keep them in my grandma's house, which just reeked.
Yeah.
And she was naive and she didn't know. But then the weed started to like mold. And then I had to take it to my mom's house so that she could help me with it. And then she just stole my weed, you know.
Of course. Is this your mom's mom, by the way?
This is my stepdad's mom. Which is the only grandparent I was ever close with was my stepdad's mom.
That lady stepped up, huh?
No, she was the shit.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm living with her, and it's very easy to have this pure lifestyle, and I'm involved in the church, and she's so excited, and the kids didn't really like me that much.
Your singing get any better?
No. through any of these iterations, that's I still not can. No. Nope. I did become, like, I won so many souls. I was just everywhere I went and was just excited about it. And I got involved in some school where you get your GED. And as soon as I turned 16, I got my GED. And then I met one of the pastor's sons. And this particular pastor was like a street preacher. And he would like go out and like preach to bums and stuff. And I just thought it was so cool. This is like the kind of person I want to be, is like a street preacher. And I want to help gangs. You know, maybe they'll let me in now. And,
now they'll fuck you.
Yeah. Now I might get punched in the mouth.
I'm gonna beat your ass and take that Raiders jacket.
I meet his son, and I go home that night. He makes fun of me. That's all. I stand there while he mocks me for like an hour and a half. And then that night I went home and said, I'm going to marry him.
You?
Just being, he was just very funny, you know? So
he's being nice.
Yeah. Just hilariously. I love getting roasted. And so if you're good at it. And so, that was Dustin Reed. And so, I went home and said, I'm going to marry Dustin Reed. And, shortly after that, he started hanging out, and then I had to backslide so I could fuck him. And,
backslide.
You can't have both.
You can't.
His mom was brokenhearted. And this is the beginning. The just wrong side of the tracks.
Okay, so
you
she
know.
knew.
Yeah. Yeah. And they try to have a conversation with us about, you guys need to do this the right way, whatever. And we're just like...
And what was that for them, marriage?
Like not fucking.
Oh, okay.
And they really just didn't want him to end up with me, which they, you know...
You just need to leave the church.
Yeah. You could just jump in front of a train.
Pray your ass on out here if you would, please.
By this point, because his dad ran like the 12-step group at the thing, so my mom is in and out of church by now, and so my mom's just like, it's a mess. And finally one night he's at my house, they come over and they try to take his car or something, and then he ends up being like, I love her, and then he moves into my house, and I'm pregnant within a couple months.
Wow. Okay. And was he a virgin?
He was, and I didn't know that. And so we had a conversation like, how many people have you fucked? You know? Oh, no. And I should have let him answer first. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I should have done like a sliding scale or something, but I didn't know. I was just like 15. And that really weighed on him.
Because you knew your number?
Yeah.
And you were honest about your
Yeah.
number?
Weren't those the days when I knew the
my God.
number,
And
right?
I never, you know when I
Under
learned not
20.
to ask? I asked, you said what?
It was under 20. Because
Under
I'd only
20?
been fucking for a year, but I'm very...
I asked a girl one time, and I just saw her go on her fingers like this, like the little moving, and like, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought to myself, she could be counting by fives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, don't ever ask that goddamn question again.
Also, who cares? But, I mean...
Seriously.
It was a big deal back then, and it was a big deal because I was
so you tell
involved with someone who had, and this is the 90s, man. So this is like so many preconceived notions of what women were supposed to be, and then you add religion to that, and I just wasn't what he thought his wife was going to be.
Right.
So that becomes a problem once we get married. We get married, I get hella fat.
But you're pregnant first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am 250 or something by the time the baby's born.
What were you when you started?
150.
Wow, you gained 100 pounds.
Yeah. I went balls out. I was very sick, and so I would just eat constantly and then throw up, but it didn't, I didn't throw up enough. Yeah, we get married immediately. We have to go to the hitching post in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
I've been there.
You've
Not
been to the hitching post?
Oh. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
The hitching post is like a weird shack right outside the building where you get your marriage license. Okay. And because Oregon won't let you marry off your child to hide your family shame.
Wait, how old are you at this point?
16.
Oh, 16. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And
even
he's
Oregon,
what?
He's 19.
19, okay.
We have the baby. The marriage is a mess. And I'm not a good mom. And I am obsessed with how bad of a mom I am. I don't feel bonded to my child. I am constantly watching other people with their kids and wondering why I don't feel that way. I left her for a weekend with friends when she was 5 weeks old.
Jeez.
And that didn't seem
weird to you.
Yeah. And I quietly unravel about this for years. I also have insane postpartum depression, but I don't know what that is.
Right, I'm sure.
And I have an awful relationship to project that onto. He starts cheating on me. And number one, he had a 24-hour refractory period, which is a huge pain in the ass. So if he jerked off, if you come, the refractory period is how long till you can get hard again?
Come on.
24 hours.
At 19?
At 19.
It's a lot of pent up fucking religion in that.
Yeah, right?
A lot going on there too.
So if he jerked off, it was ruined for the rest of the night. So I would.
A wet dream will fuck your whole weekend.
And he loved to jerk off. And we had great sex, but I remember coming home and just finding fifis he had made, just he had jerked off into a kitchen towel with saran wrapper and just left it in the kitchen.
Making prison fucking pussies.
Yeah, exactly. You have a pussy. There is one on her way home from
I needed that saran wrap,
the goddamn grocery store right now.
Who wants it?
The first time he cheated on me, he drops me off. We're involved in the church. We're back in the church now. We're in the ministry. We're living legit. He drops me off at church and he goes and disappears. He's supposed to play the bass in the praise and worship. He never fucking comes back.
Stand-up bass or electric bass?
Stand-up.
Electric, like you're holding that.
Yeah,
electric,
yeah, okay.
He plays the bass.
He plays the bass
in church.
In the youth group thing. He never comes back. They're like, "Where's he at?" I'm like, "I have no idea." He never comes back to pick me and his daughter up. We have to hitch a ride home. He gets home at 1:00 in the morning. Tells me he was at a Jack Shack. I believe him, but then he always fell for that. I already know what you did, so you might as well tell me. So a month later, I find out that he got to the corner store to get gum, and he meets a girl named Amber. Amber's wearing a tube dress and boots and a floppy hat. She's wearing a floppy hat because she has a bald spot because she had a tumor removed. What? He's very generous with the details. He takes Amber to the railroad tracks and fucks her for an hour and then drops her off at her apartment.
He just bumps into her at
Portland.
the store like this.
Yeah, and she's just like...
Yeah, she probably had head trauma, for Christ's sake. She just had a tumor removed.
And I lose my mind. I lose...
Yeah.
Getting cheated on have you ever gotten cheated on?
Yes.
That paradigm shift where Yeah, so then every brunette woman in the world was Amber.
You got a tumor.
Yeah.
Let me see that bald spot. All right, that ain't you. All right. Oh, you got nice hair.
I wasn't sure if that was like the tumor thing was to throw me off the thing. I remember being at Starbucks and the woman giving me my coffee, or whatever the coffee places were back then. She gives me my coffee, and then she had brown hair, and I remember being like, Amber? She was like, what? And I was like, nothing. I went nuts. I went crazy hunting Amber. I then remember that my mom's meth dealer had a daughter named Amber who had brown hair and would totally have a fucking brain tumor. So I go to this meth lab house that I haven't been to in years, and I asked this Amber chick who I haven't seen in years to come hang out with me.
You knew her.
I kind of kidnap her. No, she wasn't her. She was just Amber.
Okay.
I bring her back to my
Amber
house.
Alert. Right,
and I'm like soft interrogating her. Like, yeah, we're hanging out. Isn't this fun? Where were you she's scared. She wants to go home. He finally comes, because I'm like, well, I want you to meet my husband. Have you already met my husband?
Yeah.
And he comes home and is like, what the, and I'm like, Amber, do you remember Amber? And he's like, Jesus Christ. A lot of psycho shit like that. I catfished him at one point and got him to plan on web TV.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
I got him to fall for some fake person that was just me, and make a date
to
with
see
me.
if he would cheat. Mm-hmm. And he did, and he was going.
Yeah. But then he was like, "Oh, I knew it was you. I thought it was like the Pina Colada, the Pina Colada song."
Yeah,
yeah. And I was like, yeah, the Pina Colada song didn't say anything about it's hard for me to fuck my fat wife when I think of all the dudes that have been there before me.
Oh my God.
You flirt weird.
Oh my God.
That marriage didn't last.
How long?
5 years.
5.
I one day had just been through the cycle of pain so many times.
And now you're just legal to drink.
Yeah, it was. I was 20 when I left. The first time I took his kid, I got a plane ticket and then told him I'm leaving in a couple weeks and I'm moving to Delaware without you. And then when I got to Delaware, I lost all the weight, cut all my hair off, got an eyebrow rings. It's the 90s. I was alternative now and was hot shit. And then he came out to visit his kid after 3 months and then was like, oh my God, you're beautiful now. I miss you. Let's get back together. And I think he was serious and I think he was going to try, but it was just Pet Cemetery after then because I was done. And so we stayed together for another year and it was awful and I hated it. And then I found out I could do comedy and he told me I couldn't be his wife and do comedy. So I said, deal. Yeah. Sounds like my perfect arrangement. I started doing comedy because I lied and told people at work.
So out of character for you.
There's a lot of accidental life experiences. I had told people because he was so funny. So we were going to open mics to...
Your husband?
Yeah.
He was?
He was so funny.
Okay.
Yeah. And we were going to open mics, but he never had the balls to go up. And so after a while, I just kept going to open mics. I was just one of these people that goes and watches open mic comedy. And then one day I was being funny at a work dinner, and everybody's like, you're so funny. And I was like, I am a stand-up comedian. I do stand-up comedy on Monday nights at Brabati's Pan. And so the next week, they were like, hey, we're going to see you tonight at Brabati's Pan. We're coming to watch you do comedy. And I was like, fuck. So I got there and I signed up. And when I signed up, the guy, Randy, was like, I didn't know you did stand-up. I was like, shh. Pretend like
on
you
the
know
mic.
Me. Yeah.
On the mic, you say.
I crushed. I just did really well. And at the end of that, a guy said we need a token female for a comedy contest. And so my 3rd time on stage, I did the preliminaries. My 6th time on stage, I did the semifinals. And my 9th time on stage, I did the finals because I was doing 2 open mics before every week. And then I won.
Wow.
And I won paid work and then was just a road comic my 10th time on stage because I was like, had a car and was slutty. So all the guys would take me on the road with them. Mm-hmm. And so I was a professional stand-up comedian after 3 weeks and a huge quick paradigm shift. And then he was like, at the end when I won was just like, this was cute, but like, no.
Right.
And so I moved out.
And how do you juggle your daughter and
I live with my in my mom's basement. I do stand up while I'm on the road. His sister watches her. Okay. And his sister was someone who I constantly compared myself to because she loved being a mom. She had 4 kids. She homeschooled them. She just like wanted to be around her kids all the time. And it was someone that I was like fixated on. And in my head, I thought the more time my daughter got to be with her, the better off my daughter would be because she was a real mom and I didn't know how to be a mom.
I can understand that, yeah.
I get
was she a young mom also? Yeah, you're a kid. You're a kid, by the way.
Yeah.
You're
I am 21 at this point. I'm just legally embarked.
But you were 16 as a new mom.
Yeah.
You're a kid.
Yeah. She's 30, I think, at this point, because she's like 7 years older than me. So she's like, and married, and, you know, she was an adult when she started having kids. I get addicted to meth at a gig in Montana.
You can pinpoint. I remember you saying the story, but that's the moment.
Yeah. I was getting so drunk because you got unlimited drinks on the road back then. Now they give you like 2 drink tickets, but back then it was like you got to drink all night, and I've
been asked to pay for soda before.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, here you fucking go.
I get club soda and I dump 5-hour energies into them, which is like methadone for Red Bull is what I call it. Red Bull makes me retain water. I thought I was doing coke at the that's what the This Is Not Happening story is about. That I thought I was doing coke, and I was doing it because I would get so drunk that I was getting pulled over in the morning going to the next gig. So, and
do you snort it? Is that how you did
that
it?
night I snorted it, and it was crank, and then I was immediately.
Did you know right away?
Yes. It
and why?
Hurts. It fucking hurts. Because you
never did it before, though, right?
Right. So coke just like feels good and kind of gaggy or whatever. This, like, my head felt like someone had a blowtorch on it.
Oh.
And then but then the high was like, I felt like I had found the thing I'd been looking for my entire life. I felt like whatever planet I felt dropped off from simultaneously existed on this planet.
I'm home!
Yeah.
You were there,
I am touching all of the dimensions right now.
Were you, like, I've read a lot about it. I've mentioned it before. I think Andre Agassi said he did meth. And he didn't win a championship during that time, but he said he had never been more focused in his life.
Wow.
Like, I read about people who just have just like crazy. I know it destroys you, but they say for a while they're just so focused. That's why like a lot of college kids like speed. They stay up late and study and cram and all that shit.
I felt like a genius. It reminded me of like Flowers for Algernon. I felt like I thought I was an idiot before that because I was bad at school. And so I didn't understand myself at all. And for me, my experience on meth was I had a great time. I learned a lot. I healed all these broken pieces of myself. I learned to love myself.
All from meth.
Yeah. Nobody else had this experience. So like, I'm not, don't try it.
No.
And then it as awful as the things that were happening around me, I was having this profoundly spiritual experience that took years off of me processing my childhood. I feel like if I had never become an addict, I never would have understood my mother. And therefore I never would have like accepted myself. And I feel like the resentment and anger at her would have had a negative impact on my life. I also could never love my daughter until I learned to love myself.
That's the truth.
And I had to leave society.
Or anyone, for that matter.
Exactly. And I didn't know that. I just thought I was broken, and which just like fed this loop. I left my daughter with that family that watched her. My sister-in-law kept her. I didn't get custody of her again until she was 14.
Wow. And how old was she when you left her?
5.
Wow. 9 years.
Yeah. I was clean for a while before I got her back. I lost all my teeth almost immediately.
Yeah, it's immediately, you said.
I already had bad teeth. And
let's go. All right, so you snorted that one night.
I snorted the one night.
And then are you, like, the next night you're on it again? Like,
I am high for like 3 days.
From that night?
Mm-hmm. I get home to Portland. I'm already involved in like an after hours scene right? There's like speakeasies and shit. So I already know who has the meth. And then I just become, this dude ends up becoming my best friend for years, but I was just like, I'm going to do meth now. Like by the time I got home, I knew that this is what I want. And then I end up out of my mom's house within days. I went and asked my sister-in-law to take my daughter, and there's some back and forth, and then of course the whole family's up in arms, and I'm not admitting I'm on drugs. I'm just like, I'm an awful mom. And she deserves better, and fuck off if you don't like it.
But the cycle's repeating itself. Now you're your mom to your daughter. In a way.
I felt like I was breaking. Yeah, no, exactly.
But yeah,
I felt like I was breaking the cycle because she wasn't going to get raised around it. Right. I felt like I was fulfilling my destiny because this is what I know.
In better hands, better situation.
And I did to a certain extent. She's not an addict.
Yeah, you know,
did. She would have gotten molested and picked up by CPS with me.
Yeah.
I do meth for like a year. My teeth went bad fast.
And are we talking, is this a daily thing? You're
yes.
smoking, snorting?
Full time. Snorting at first and then smoking.
Every day?
Every day.
And is it but that one bump will get you for a day?
No, I actually end up in like the after hours club scene for a while. And so it's a lot of like ecstasy, ketamine, GHB, like a lot of drugs. And then you just go from that party to the after party to the after party. Next thing you know, it's been like 3 days. And it was kind of a big group of people leaving society at the same time. I hadn't been exposed to like real old school tweakers until I was years in. Okay. And so it was a lot of people that the party got away from. And so the first year was a lot of ecstasy. Like now that I know more about ecstasy, it's crazy how much ecstasy I did. Like I was doing multiple tabs a day, and then you do meth to keep the ecstasy going.
That'll keep it going?
Yeah. But like now that I know what I know about MDMA, it's amazing that my body even produces serotonin. Now they're like, you can only do one, do it once every 6 months or something. And I was dating one of the biggest ecstasy dealers in Portland at the time, and just had freezer bags. They were called boats of E, and I was just like candy. God, I remember we would like crack each other's necks because the ecstasy and the GHB and the ketamine and everything would just be stored in your muscles, that if we cracked each other's necks, you would like get high. Yeah. You could just feel like lumps in our backs and stuff. So much toxic, so many drugs.
I didn't know any of this shit.
No, I don't know how we just figured it out because our bodies were just.
Plus, you're addicts. You'll figure out any way to get high.
Yeah.
Especially if it's all stored up in you. Mm-hmm. That's hibernation shit right there.
Yeah. So crazy. Teeth start falling out. Did I break into the dentist's office before?
Teeth start falling out.
Did I die first? Or
wait, what? You died?
Yeah. I guess I die before the dentist's office. So it could have been GHB. It could have been a dude was poisoning me, but I'm not going to tell that story. I'll just leave that there.
Fair enough.
But somebody had been putting arsenic in my Mountain Dew for a grip.
Like that slow.
I remember thinking, I'll say this much. I remember because I started doing drugs, and I remember like looking at my fingernails and then being very weird and like weird, like a relief map. No. And then I remember I'm 22, 23, and I remember feeling so frail. Like I remember I was thin for me, which is like $145, but I was frail. My bones felt like they were made, like they would just crumble. And I thought that was just all of the drugs. And in retrospect, it was the arsenic in my
How'd you find that out?
He ends up telling me. I'll eventually come out and tell the story, but I for a long time felt like it sounds like bullshit until I say who the people were that did it, and then everyone that's ever partied with Eastern Europeans is like, oh yeah, right. Don't piss them off. They will put arsenic in your Mountain Dew. Anyway, gloss over that, and so I die at a dance club.
Jessa, you died.
I died, and I can't give you great specifics on this because this was all very strange. Also could have been GHB. We were drinking GHB out of water bottles. I did so much drugs that I don't think it was drugs, but it doesn't matter. So this day, I'm at an after hours
I've never
party.
told anybody it's died before. Have you?
Really?
Have you?
Yes. Now it's a big thing of mine. So
All
I've done a couple podcasts with other near-death experience people. And this is almost hack at this point, but this is groundbreaking shit in 2000. I'm counseling.
That's all I would ever thought about. Remember when I died? Y'all remember when I died in 2000?
This bitch who had stolen my boyfriend. We were on a break, but she was supposed to be my best friend, and now she was dating my boyfriend, and they were fighting. And I'm counseling her, and while he's in the other room, ignoring her during several after party. I guess it's the middle of the afternoon. We've all been up for a couple days. And I am like, listen, though, nothing outside of you, good or bad, can affect you unless you allow it. And I have no idea where I'm channeling this bullshit from. But while I'm saying it to her, my brain is like, where do you get this shit? And so I start running my own life experience through this new piece of information. And I'm like, oh my God, that is true. Like, I got molested when I was a kid, and that is bad. But I do get to write the narrative of that. Like, I do get to write that. Like, nothing is innately anything unless we assign it. Yep. And what makes us assign it? Like, other people tell us what is good and bad. And I'm having this like epiphany. And I realized this is the secret of happiness. And this is bumper sticker shit in 2019. But nobody talked about this shit in 2000 that I'd ever been exposed to. That night, I was a bully back then. I was very popular for this tiny window of time, and I had never been popular in my life, and I misused that power, and I treated people like shit. And so the girl who's supposed to be driving me to the club is like freaking out in the mirror, and I'm like, listen, Stephanie, it's fine. But just know that whatever's happening in the mirror isn't about your hair or your makeup. It's about how you feel about yourself as a person. And if you accept yourself, and then I'm like, where is this shit coming from? We get to the club. I'm hugging people, which is not my thing. I'm telling people I have found the secret to happiness. I'm apologizing to people. People who just wanted to be my friend. And I'm like, do you have a tab? Because you're fucking up my high. Like, I was just a cunt. And this night I'm like, I am so sorry. You just wanted to be nice. Like, I'm just a completely different person. Everyone's like, what have you done with Jessa? I get a bottle of water from the bar, and I come walking out, and I can see the music coming out of the speakers.
And what are you on at this point?
Nothing that I know of.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like, nothing that I remember. There was lots of GHB. So I see the music coming out of the speakers.
You're taking fucking ecstasy like Advil.
Yeah,
and shit
so that's
too.
what I mean. Like, even if you like roofied me, I could drink half a bottle of GHB and still be standing. So I don't know. But that's the last thing I remember is the music coming out of the speakers. From people that were at the bar, I then foam at the mouth. I'm on the floor. I'm pissing myself.
Are you remembering that?
No, this is people at the bar told me this. The last thing I remember is the music and the speakers. I get carried out and put into a cab.
A cab? Which
isn't crazy because during this like GHB boom, bars were getting in trouble with the liquor board. And so you just didn't want to call because then you get accused of over serving them. So it wasn't crazy that I would just get thrown into a cab and taken to the hospital. I participated in stuff like that. So next thing I remember, I am in a blue vibrating ball of light.
Okay.
I am my own person, but I am a part of this blue vibrating ball of light. I don't have a physical body. I just exist as something in it. In this moment, I understand vibration, energy, frequency, consciousness, all of it. I understand all of it. Previous to this, I thought I was a backslidden Christian. I believed in God. I believed that Christ, whatever, and that I was just doing the wrong thing because I wanted to sin. In this moment, I realize I am God. I am a part of this. This is God. And the ball of light tells me, without words, like my brain translates it to words when I wake up, that you did everything you came to do and you learned everything you came to learn. You can just stay here now, or you can go back. If you want to go back, we have something cool for you to do. the homesickness that I had felt my entire life, this homesickness that just ran in the background, where I knew I wasn't from here, and I knew this wasn't real, and I knew this wasn't the life I was supposed to lead, and that it felt like in a dream, and I know it's a dream, and nobody else knows it's a dream. Like this thing that ran in the background was gone in this blue ball of light. I knew this blue ball of light was home, and for some reason was still like, yeah, I'll go back. When I go back, I have to live my entire life to get to the present moment in fast forward.
Back in this ball.
Yeah, I go from the ball to get to my current life, and I have to be a baby, a child, a toddler, a child. Like I lived my entire life like in fast forward. Yeah. I don't even know how to, I guess that's your life flashing before your eyes.
Yeah, I've seen like in the videos, they'll do the rewind.
Yeah. But it felt visceral. Like it felt like so I'm sucking my thumb when I wake up because I was a baby 5 seconds ago. And whenever I think of life flashing before your eyes, I think like a linear film strip or something, you know, and this was, I was living that life to get back to the moment. And then I know a bunch of shit. I just,
what do you know?
I know, what people's motives are. I know,
What's the most glaring thing you knew coming out of that you didn't before you went in?
reality wasn't real, that it's a video game that we're playing.
Every day, I swear, more and more, I feel like this is a goddamn simulation.
I then have alien guides that are with me 24/7 whenever I'm asleep.
When you're back now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're all right. So
completely different person when I come back.
Were you wake up in a hospital?
Yep.
And then did you officially flatline?
So I wake up in a hospital with the bitchiest doctor. This hospital looks, if it's how I remember it, the room was very dark, and the woman was annoyed with me, and 3 friends are standing next to me. And I said, she doesn't have my name. I stole the paperwork and it said Jane Doe Foxtrot was the name. And, because back then I wore a wedding veil everywhere I went. And when people asked me why, I said, because I'm getting divorced.
I'm getting divorced.
Yeah, I thought it was hysterical. I dressed very funny. This is actually when the stolen FBI windbreaker and the Barbie backpack was. Okay. It's very eccentric. I said, I said, was I dead? And she said, yes. And I said, what was the cause of death? And she goes, drugs. And I said, what drugs? And she said, I don't know. Your friend said you were on drugs.
Your friend said they didn't test or anything.
They didn't test. I steal the paperwork and it just says, patient does not respond to painful stimuli. Patient does not respond to painful stimuli for like 10 minutes. She was poking me with a stick. I don't know. I didn't. There was nothing else on the paper that said, like, I had a catheter in and I had a bunch of things hooked up to me, but the second I woke up, she was like, get out. We never heard they didn't ask for my real information. They never billed me.
What?
The whole thing is very strange. I couldn't tell you what hospital that was. Nothing. One of the people that picked me up is
you still have that paper?
No. I mean, I was so many police raids after this.
Just saying no. So not.
One of the people
like
that picked
yard
up,
sales.
Yeah, a lot. There was a police raid like 2 weeks later. So whatever. Maybe I didn't die all the way. I don't know.
I hear you.
I don't have, but I definitely had this experience, right? So, I come back, I get dropped off at a house for like 5 days by the person who's trying to kill me. And, this is way more I've ever told of this story on a podcast, by the way. I'm just going to end up telling it probably. I get dropped off and then I spend 5 days in what we now call alien school, where I'm just with these beings and they look like aliens, but they're not solid. I think people think aliens are solid. These guys are like like plasma.
And you haven't taken any drugs.
I have not. There's no drugs. No.
This is
5
all
days.
right there, real
this is
in your
all
head.
Me. And they said that Earth is a place that we have played games at forever. We those of us that are a part of this blue ball of light have been everything. We were the dinosaurs. We were the Egyptian gods. We've been every iteration of, and they were all just a series of games. And that every game has its own parameters. And sometimes we know we're playing a game and sometimes we don't. And that we are currently about to switch games from a 3-dimensional, fear-based game where the parameters are dichotomy, and we're waking up out of that, and we're going into like an 8-dimensional game where we're all awake, right? And that the thing that I agreed to was helping that transition, right?
For you or them to help?
Because it's all we're all one thing.
Okay,
we're all one ball of light. And so then I just am with these aliens
by yourself in a home.
Yeah, but then for years, they just taught me stuff. And at one point, they were teaching me.
We've left the hospital. We're back in reality.
Yeah.
Now. Okay. I
This
just want
is
to make
4
sure
years.
we're not still part of this blue ball, and then you're going to pop out. This is back home now.
Yeah. I get back
who's
home.
Who's taking care of you?
I'm in this house for 5 days. I just get dropped off. Nobody. Just me and a pitcher of poison. Okay. And
okay.
Then I go back to my boyfriend's house, and I'm just a more eccentric version of Jessa. But there's something about, like, now I understand. I just know. I just understand people. I can hear what they're thinking. I can tell when they're lying. And then I'm being taught things. I was taught how to move things with my eyes, which I've never successfully done. But like, I can tell you how to do it. Like, if we got to a higher dimension, I could do it. Like, I can tell you where, like, I can feel it in my body where I'm supposed to do it. This also, hey, I usually do this. There's also a thing called meth-induced schizophrenia, and I might just be schizophrenic. So just throwing that, I'm completely aware of the fact that I probably have a brain tumor. It's fine. This version's just more fun. There was a point where they were teaching me how to hear people's thoughts. And so I was forced to go give people messages. And these messages were brutal.
And who you were delivering messages, actual messages to who?
Just I would write notes to strangers.
You would write notes
to strangers at the dance club and just be like,
walk up and give it to
reason
them?
You can't find the love you're looking for is because you have to forgive your dad for what he did to you and shit. Like,
and you would hand it to him?
Mm-hmm.
And then just walk out. The stranger just comes up.
No, a lot of times they would end up becoming friends with me for a long time. I only had one person ever tell me that it was wrong, and it was so obvious that, like, his ego just couldn't. He was like a frat boy.
So this stranger presents herself to me with a note, and then boom, we're connected and start talking like that. Holy shit!
According to them, that's because I have keys for people that I agreed to give these connect these dots with people that I made so say it is a video game, right? And we're all playing somewhere. Me and you are friends, and we're going into the game, and we're going to go into this amnesia in the game. And the agreement is that I'll run into you at this point, and I'll just have these 2 dots that need to be connected, and boom, you wake up. And so that's essentially the premise. There wasn't virtual reality. It was a concept, not really something we saw yet. Technology was different. So the metaphors for it. But basically what they said is there is no such thing as right and wrong. There is no such thing as good and bad. Like, these light, dark, all this yin yang is all dichotomy, which is bullshit that we created for the parameters of this game. They said there is no male and female, that male and female are one thing, and that gender will cease to exist. That in 2000 made zero fucking sense to me. It made no sense. Nobody said gender is a construct. They called it parameters. Gender is a construct until a few years ago. I mean, I'm sure somebody was saying it somewhere, but we had not been introduced to that. They said that everything that has ever happened to you, you wrote into your own story, that nothing has ever happened to you that you didn't allow. And this concept of free will is because you have a person who's playing first-person shooter. You have a version of you that's on the ground seeing out of your eyes, and you have a version of you that's playing like an RPG. Do you know anything about video games?
Yeah. And
that's your higher self. That person has written things into your script.
Fan.
Okay. Is Halo RPG?
Yeah, I don't know if it's shooter. You can do first-person shooter, or you can watch the guys run. You can do that kind of shit.
Okay. At that point, I don't think they had games that did both, but it's essentially a game where you do both. So
now it looks like we were hoping it would look like when we were kids, and it looks fucking real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Like, I've walked into people's houses and glanced at Madden before thinking it was a real fucking game for just a second. Like,
It's so
damn, that looks
crazy. Real. The imagery now is like, it's not far-fetched,
Yeah.
right? It's not. So, but when you say, like, we live in a simulation, people think it's because computers took over the Matrix or whatever. It's like, no, it's you. Like, according to the aliens, it's you. And that the entire like waking up process is just integrating those two things. And if you can integrate the RPG version and the first person shooter version, you can just create whatever life you want and then get to live it and experience it.
How do we do that?
There are a lot of steps. Most of the activation codes are hidden behind your trauma. So it's almost a game where you have to conquer your own programming in order to get out. If you believe in this sort of thing, anyway. So that's what I did the whole time I was on meth. Are we at? We're how many hours is this?
I mean, hey,
so, meth goes on during this whole time.
So you are doing meth during.
I am doing meth during this.
Any other drugs?
After the
you're aware
first
of?
year, the club thing kind of falls away, and we all become like legit meth addicts.
Ecstasy
and
all that shit's gone.
Yeah, it comes around every once in a while, but the party's over. I personally was I consider psychedelics, ketamine, these are like mental health drugs as far as I'm concerned. I even to this day feel like psychedelics, ketamine, ecstasy, like those are things you can use to better yourself.
To help.
Yeah, I don't consider them like addictive drugs, so they're in their own category. So if those came around, we would do those. But I did psychedelics a few times, crack, heroin, coke, alcohol, pot. I wouldn't do anything else when I was on meth.
But you've done all those drugs in your life?
I have not done crack or heroin. The cool thing about having an addict for a mom is that I had a realistic drug education. And this is the same information that I give my kids. When you tell your kids that weed is the same thing as opiates, when you lump those substances together, they're going to try weed. The chances are your teenager's going to try weed. When you have lumped that together with pills, your kid's not going to trust you, and they're going to try pills, and pills lead to heroin, and
100%.
Opiates are a life sentence. Yes. And so my mom was like, weed is fine. You know, it's whatever. Yes, you can abuse weed, but you're not going to lose your life. If you do crack or you do heroin, you are serving a life sentence. I never would have purposely tried meth because that was lumped in the life sentence as well. But it is not, like my kids know the difference between popping a Percocet and smoking some weed.
Joint,
And I think...
So do I.
Yeah. I
hate pills.
Fuck.
Hate them. I'm so glad. I break out. I throw up.
Throw up? Okay, same thing. I guess
itch.
it's an allergy
That's
or
what
something.
My doctor said. He said, you're allergic to them. And I was like, thank fucking God.
Oh, that was you that I was listening to? I was listening to your episode with Tim, and what you were describing. I will just white knuckle it after a surgery because I hate pills.
They make me...
And I can't imagine getting addicted to that. It's the worst feeling. And then I feel like I'm still in pain. It's just in slow motion.
Yeah.
It's awful. I just got I got dental implants because some a dentist in Portland saw me glue my teeth in on Burtcast, and I got $20,000 worth of free dental implants.
What?
Yeah. Dr. Brady Smith in Vancouver, Washington, saw me glue my teeth. We started Burtcast, and I usually glue my dentures in before I get to the place, and realized I hadn't, and then was like, shit, my teeth are unglued, so I'm going to be making gross mouth noises through this whole podcast. So I just leaned, because he has a video podcast, I leaned out of the frame and...
Talk about Burt Kreischer
show? Yeah, and glued them back
this happened on his show.
And Burt was like, this is 2 seconds into the podcast. I've never met this dude before in my life.
I don't feel so bad about the inhaler I took before this show started.
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? You're lucky I didn't glue them in here. So then Bert was like, oh my God. And I am just out of frame. And I was like, apologizing. He's like, this is fucking fantastic. So then Brady Smith sees it, and he has a podcast, and he has me come do his podcast. And he's like, do you want implants? And I'm like, what? This is like something I've Googled, It'll never be like individual teeth. I would have to get a crazy bone graft for that. But it will be a one-piece thing that clicks up into these implants. But right now they're like still wearing dentures. They're fusing with the bone. Takes like 6 months.
Oh, it's so happening right now.
Yeah, so they're in. But getting those in was fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to go back to this. A year or two into tweaking, post Aliens, I guess, we break into during Aliens still, but we break into a dentist's office. And all of the tweakers are doing, they're looking for the nitrous, which is in a shed in the back.
Yeah,
for those of you that want to break
yeah.
into. Yeah, it's a whip it. Like crack to me seem like whippets.
Telling them where it is.
Yeah, it's not in the building. They're not allowed to keep it in the building. I am rifling through drawers with things that look like filling material. I am stealing amalgam, because I'm sure I've heard that word, and tools, and then I get everything I need to make my own teeth.
Oh, so you're going for the teeth.
Yeah.
All right.
So I get home and I fashion a bridge, because there was like broken teeth, right? And so I fashion a bridge.
Like, tell me, like, they just fall out? You said dust.
They crumble.
Like how? Like you brush them and
One
they just
day,
fall apart?
I don't think I was brushing them. I'm sorry,
I'm
a lot of brushing memories.
You said I don't have a lot of brushing memories.
I was standing in a living room, not eating or drinking,
just
standing in a living room, and heard one of my teeth go.
Nuh-uh.
Like when you pour
out?
water on an ice cube.
Yes.
And then it just snapped and crumbled into and I was doing nothing. I was
and
not.
Just right in your hand?
And I spit it into my hand. It snapped. And just broke off. And they were hollow on the inside. Like there was just like a black stump in the middle. But then otherwise hollow, which I don't know if that's just what teeth do.
Your root dying in there is what I think that was.
Yeah. It's just smoke and lie. I'm smoking meth by this point.
I'm sorry, how fast you say? Just quickly they fell out? 6 months?
They were already bad. Like, I'd already lost most of my molars from pregnancy. I already had an implant. I already had one implant. So my teeth were already fucked up. I'd already had but
they
I
look
like.
Nice though.
Thank you.
They do look really nice.
This one's super glued in.
This is whose work here? What's his name again?
This one, these are dentures still over top of the implants are fusing with the bone. This is Salt's Dental Center in Pennsylvania, Chester. But it's super glued in. So, I mean, do what you want with that information. I don't know, within a year they were bad. And so they were bad enough that there was like no middle of my front two teeth and stuff. So I take this stuff and I mix it and I just put it on and I make a bridge that if I'm across the room for you, I look like a normal person.
Okay, I was going to say, does this look like teeth?
If I'm up close, it looked like maybe I had been eating some drywall mud. I mean, it was
you eating paste?
A little more textured than I needed to steal like but those things are all like pneumatic tools or something like into the wall. So I needed a Dremel. Anyway, it worked. It worked for it looked like I had teeth from far away. But every time that would start to fall out, it would take whatever it was glued to with it. And so I just kind of took my teeth out faster with that. And then there's a death process for a tooth. It's like abscess. And then there is the nerve gets exposed at some point. And the nerve getting exposed is just sticking a fork into an electrical socket. It's an awful pain.
I can imagine.
The abscess, I had just, garlic pills work as antibiotics. So I was just on a constant thing of garlic pills. And then I had just lanced my gums and would just spit all the time. They say don't lance your gums. But listen, if you have an abscess tooth and it hurts, it gets rid of the pain immediately. And it's probably very bad.
What do you do?
You just find it, your gum will be swollen and there'll be a very glossy piece of it. And I would just poke a hole in it.
Jesus.
And it would all drain out and I would just spit because you don't want to swallow that stuff. Would probably kill you, I guess. I don't know. According to the doctors, it was you're going to get infection in your brain.
Yeah.
Obviously,
all over your face.
The meth also kills it. But I had almost permanently lanced gums at one point. And then I would have to,
Jesus.
to prevent that exposed nerve from happening. After a couple teeth, I learned that once it broke, I needed to saw it down, and then I would just like cut the gum open, and so it would
Good God.
within a couple days grow over top of the tooth. And so there was just a lot. By the time I got to a dentist to get dentures, he was like, he looked at the x-ray and was like, what? How did this happen? How did your mouth get like this? Yeah, he said I had exposed nerves, floating bone fragments, a dislocated jaw. I was like, I think the dislocated jaw is from my boyfriend. It was a wreck. The surgery was a nightmare trying to get all of that out of there. Okay, yeah. So that's the dental. But then there was something about losing my teeth that was like body image boot camp. And I used to have jokes about I used to lose and gain weight really bad. And I had to stop doing them because women would afterwards, if I was thin, they would be like, nobody wants to hear a thin woman talk about this, you know, even though it's my actual experience.
Right.
If I was heavy, then we would be like, you're beautiful. And it's like, yeah, I know I'm beautiful. I can't worry about my big thighs. They're in style now. But like, I didn't have teeth in my 20s.
Right, yeah, in your 20s.
Dude, you better fucking love yourself, and your personality better be doing motherfucking push-ups if you think you're going to peel any of these dudes from their hot girlfriends. Because I don't have fucking teeth. Like, it is open season on the tooth. Some dudes like thick chicks. Like, some dudes like overweight women. Like, some... it wasn't acceptable in society, like mainstream back then, but like no one has ever been like, I like my bitches without teeth.
Give me that toothless bitch right there.
That was swimming upstream.
Yeah,
And I found a way. I was like, anything you do with unshakable confidence, people will just follow suit. I got whoever the fuck I wanted without teeth. And I loved that. I also, the ecstasy dealer's parents were cosmetic dentists, and he offered to get me a full set of implant. Back then it would have been however many individual implants. And I said, no. Sometimes I'm obstinate and regret it. I said, no, because I didn't like him that much. And so I was like, if you want to be my boyfriend, then you're not gonna fit me into that fucking Barbie doll box. And what an idiot. What a fucking idiot. I could have had,
individuals.
Goddamn implants. I'm fine with it though. Dentures are fine.
Your teeth look great.
Thank you. And you get to get new ones. You start to not like the look of them. The last one got real chiclet like. And then the Mormon and the Meth Head promo is all an old pair of dentures that I got a Dremel and some paint, and I turned them into tweaker teeth, and so I just have tweaker teeth I can pop in.
I saw that picture. Yeah. Okay, that's what that is.
Yep.
And that's realistic looking.
Yeah, that's what they look like about a year and a half in.
So you're snorting the whole time.
No, so I'm snorting.
Do you smoke?
First year. This
is
and then you convince yourself that you would never, right? This is like, I don't say I would never smoke it. The people who smoke it are sketchy. Then you end up at someone's house who's smoking it, and they won't make you a line. They'll only smoke with you. Then you smoke it and you realize how good that is. And then you smoke for a long time and you look down on people that shoot up. And then you get a boyfriend, and your boyfriend shoots up, and then he's shooting up with a girl, and they have a special bond, and you feel left out of their special bond. So now you want to shoot up. So then next thing you know, you're a person that shoots up, but then you have tiny veins, and the only way you can shoot up is in your neck.
Your neck.
My neck. My jugular was the only vein big enough
to take the needle.
Yeah.
Because you had tried and just wouldn't work.
I never had. I got my my appendix. They're bigger now than they've ever been, I think, because you can see through my skin. I got my appendix out when I was 14, and they missed.
You do have little veins.
Tiny. They missed and blew up.
Dream. I got a right there.
Jeez. I always stare at men's veins still.
The nurses like me. I'm like, just hit
this
that
one right here. Yeah, you have
right
this top one right here. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I don't like
post
that
a picture of that.
That one I don't like.
I bet it rolls.
That one hurts. I went through a bunch of stuff for
I was going to say
and they were hitting my veins, and then finally they were like, look, we're using these too much, we have to hit one. When they hit one over here, I was like and that was one of those thin ones, and man, I felt that shit.
Fuck.
I did
also,
not
you have
like
arteries that go the other direction, and that's bad. So if you shoot up into your artery in your neck, your head catches on fire in a way that's not pleasant, and you don't get high.
And
it has to go to your heart. Yeah, my fucking brain. And then people would miss. Because in your neck, you have to hold your breath and press press your breath into your neck so that it won't roll. And then there were times where it took them to, because someone else has to do it, and has to be someone who's comfortable doing that. And then you have to trust them a lot. And I did let people do it that I didn't trust, and it didn't go well. And then one time I just like couldn't hold my breath anymore, so I start breathing. That fucks it up. So I'd always end up with
the high. When you say fucks it up, fucks up.
No,
the
it like
high,
wouldn't go in
the
the vein. It would just go into my neck.
God.
So that would cause what people addicts get, like abscesses and stuff, right? But I knew natural cures for everything, which was kind of my hustle. I couldn't do crime because I didn't have teeth and was nuts, and so I learned natural cures for everything. I knew how to cure.
Put some toothpaste on that.
I knew how to cure MRSA and
other
MRSA's methicillin resistant staph infection. It's a staph infection that antibiotics doesn't fix.
The shit drugs teach you, doesn't it? It's something.
Yeah.
Else.
Very popular, apparently, in the Mormon community. I found out that they were getting it on their missions, but addicts would get it from jail.
Okay.
And it would just like eat your skin. And it was misdiagnosed as brown recluse bites a lot. And so I don't remember what I was doing, shoving cayenne in there or something batshit. But I did know how to fix abscesses. If you missed and you got wet tobacco and just put it on there, it would draw it out.
Wow.
And so I had just tobacco coming out of Band-Aids on my neck.
Oh.
A lot. And I chased that high because the rush is its own thing. It was the summer. I think I started shooting up in 2001, maybe 2002. And it was the summer of 2004 where I was like, I don't think I like this.
Shooting?
I don't even think I like it. I would so often not get high because it would miss. And it was such a frustrating journey to get it. You know, I just wasn't, my body didn't like it.
But when it hit.
It was like an orgasm.
Is that the best? Like, okay, I just want to know because I feel like a virgin sitting next to you when it comes to drugs. Not to glamorize or anything, but what's the best high from any drug you've ever had? Would it be meth? And would it be by needle or smoking or how?
Smoking, it turned you in like a space cadet and you had to smoke it all day to stay high and then you just wouldn't accomplish anything. Smoking took the focus out of meth. So smoking would create the kind of high where you're like, I'm going to leave the house. And then you're going to leave the house and then you're like, oh, real quick, I got to grab my purse before I can do that. And then you get to your purse and you're like, oh, my purse is too full of stuff. I have to empty out my purse. And it's like this backwards, flailing where you accomplish nothing. Shooting up was you get high in the morning, you're high for the rest of the day, you're very focused.
You're not like a heroin high,
you're
like
not
falling asleep.
No, there is an immediate rush that feels like an orgasm, and then you're just like got your thing. But when you're addicted to that rush, because it's the only way to do it that has a rush, if you can't successfully find a vein, I cried and cried. Like you're chasing this thing that is devastating if you can't get it. The dope changed also. They made it increasingly more difficult to get the ephedrine. And so there was less of the meth cooked in trailers and more of the meth coming out from Mexico. And it was awful. Cut and just gave me a headache. So I think I slowly started coming down. I also had graduated from this alien school.
Okay, I wanted to go back to that real quick because it just sort of ended. So the 4 years you spent with the aliens, it was, right? Is that what you said? And then poof, they're gone?
Yeah, when I got clean. So there were a few things that played into that. Something that they told me would happen appeared as if it didn't happen. And so when I got clean, I was just like, oh, that whole thing was bullshit. Like that whole thing was just like drug induced bullshit. And I, for the first time in my life, really doubted myself. Like really, I have always been someone that just like has life experience and then deals with the consequences and isn't driven by fear. And when I first got clean, like that was the most afraid, the most legit, the most what are the rules? Okay, I want to follow the rules. And I've never really been that person. I've been very rebellious. Like I'll follow the rules. I don't care to break kind of person. And when I got clean, I just felt betrayed by the whole thing.
But you got so deep into meth in your story, you talk about drinking it, your pee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you really thought that you were Like I watch fights, and there was God, who the hell was it? I can't remember now. One of the Mexican fighters, and he believed that he was urinating his vitamins out. He's like, this is valuable shit right here, so he's drinking it back. And he got flooded by doctors like, yo, your kidneys are a filter. They're doing their job. All the shit that you're supposed to have in your body, you have it in there. Stop drinking your urine.
There are a lot of people, when I was doing research on the subject, there are a lot of people that believe that urine is a byproduct of blood production, and that when your body is filtering for that moment, if it already is saturated with whatever vitamin, that your body will just put it out of that cycle, but that you could then drink the pee and get it for the next cycle or whatever. There's a lot more pseudoscience in 2000. This is 2004, 2005. I read an article about, this is after I quit shooting up. So now I'm eating it.
Eating it? What do you mean? I didn't even know you could do that.
You can do it. You can put it in your butt. You can do. So you could right? I just put it inside a paper towel and eat it.
Just crush up a little rock or something and eat it.
I think maybe I realized. No, okay. I'm still shooting up when I realize that it's in the pee. I don't start eat. It's hard. Like I had to tell the story a certain way to consolidate it for the thing, and now it's hard to remember. So the thing that gets cut out of the "this is not happening" story is the meth lab where I'm trying to make it.
Got it.
So a lot of people are like, she went straight to drinking it. I did try to make it first, but what in practices, what's that called? The lawyers for Comedy Central said that it was instructional. And I think standards and practices had to be taken out.
Oh, so you're actually telling them how to make it.
I'm telling them how I was trying to make it. So I read an article that's like Time or Life, some mainstream thing. It's talking about the difference between meth and coke. And the reason that so many people are addicted to meth is because it lasts so long. It lasts so long because your body can't metabolize it. And your body can metabolize coke. So it basically said you're pissing out. Like the body has no idea what to do with meth because it's similar to adrenaline or something. I don't know. So it just pees it out. And
so
I'm
you're
like,
just storing it and releasing it.
Yeah. So I'm like, so there's meth in our piss. Well, like you could smoke from a meth bong and then turn the meth bong water back into meth, right? You could just put it in a Tupperware in or like a Pyrex in the microwave and get like it turns it into straight meth, right? Yeah. And so I was like, we should be able to do that with piss, but I have a very limited, like I know how to cook meth because like I've been there while people did it, but I don't have like an understanding of the chemistry. So I'm living in an RV at this point and I'm trying to like manufacture. I'm just like saving buckets of piss and trying to manufacture meth out of piss for a while.
Your piss. You're just peeing in
my
buckets?
Piss, boyfriend's piss, friend's piss.
You said you didn't convert one person.
Nobody was into it, man. At some point, that RV gets raided, and it's just refrigerators filled with piss. I wasn't there for the raid, so I didn't have to answer for it. But I tried putting it in a pressure cooker. I tried mixing it with acetone.
And what, are you just trying to strain it to get that?
Yeah, like I've seen people in the comments that are like, you should have just boiled it. Like I hadn't fucking tried that.
Right.
Nothing turned it back into meth. So in Googling it though, I found that there was a biker gang's warehouse busted that found buckets of piss. So we were probably doing piss meth. Somebody who, like, the bikers know how to make meth. So somebody had figured it out at this point.
So you're saying the meth you got was probably made from piss meth.
We had probably encountered it at some point. I had definitely done meth that tasted like piss.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if those two things are correlated or not, but it had been done. And since then, there are people that know. But then I give up on that mission because I'm not living in that RV anymore. And I still think about it all the time.
Just pre-Breaking Bad and everything.
Yeah. Yep. I think about it all the time. It's one of these things. I had a few ideas while I was on meth that nobody would listen to. And this was one of them. And so then towards the very, very end of me getting high, I drink it.
What was that like?
Like a psychedelic. It was a completely different high. I was
you got high?
Up.
You did get high.
Fucked up.
You drank your urine.
I drank my urine.
that had meth in it, and you got fucked up.
I went to the place in the Matrix. Like, that part's true. I went to like a control room.
Different from the blue ball of electricity.
It was like we had bodies and stuff
Plugged
there,
in and shit.
and we were plugged in. And then there was a conversation that took place with me that I took to be as proof later that it wasn't real. But then all of the things that were said in that boardroom did end up happening after I got clean.
They did.
Since they didn't happen while I was getting high, I was like, none of this is real. This has just been a drug trip. I'm done with all of this. And then a year and a half later, I realized that everything they said was going to happen happened after I got clean. Yeah. This was us, though. Like, we were the aliens, but we had bodies.
Right.
This was like a different like level of the dimensions or whatever. Because the aliens said like they are us. They're just not in bodies. And so, yeah, I get clean. I get clean very much like, meh.
That's what
this
you
ran
said.
its
Like,
course.
just don't do this. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that.
It didn't
like the next
happen.
Day?
In that story, I kept trying to tell it the way it did happen because I thought it was funnier, but it flopped every time I tried to tell it as a story. So in the story, she yells at me and I quit. The true story is I tweaked at her house for hours and it was an awful nightmare for her. And then like a week later, I'm in a relationship with a guy that hits me sometimes. And not like battered woman. This is just a violent lifestyle. This is not the first boyfriend that ever hit me, but this is the first boyfriend I couldn't take, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but there comes a point where my self-esteem is just, like, my self-esteem is very high at this point in my life. I have accepted myself. I've loved myself. And I just like leveled out of this lifestyle and it ran its course. And I didn't know that I was going to quit. I was just going to move to Delaware. By
Back
now
to
I
dad.
have, yeah, I've told my parents, who thought I was dead for years. By the way, I was missing for years.
What do you mean?
I didn't talk to my dad or see my dad for the entire 5 years.
Nothing. Not one bit of contact.
No.
What about your daughter? I wanted to keep asking. Did you
Gone.
ever checked in on her, or she's not hearing
I
from you? Or?
would weirdly call them on like Mother's Day and say something to the mom that was raising her. The father worked like 3 jobs, and one of those was delivering papers. So he'd be out at like 5 o'clock in the morning in Portland and see me just wandering around the streets. Yeah. And he, like, the first time it happened was like, Jessa, like I'd been missing for a year and a half or something.
Missing.
And yeah, my mom thought it, like my mom only knew I was alive because sometimes I would break into her house and steal all her groceries or steal her checks or something. But long stretches of time, holidays and shit. I think the longest stretch was like 2 years that they thought I was dead.
Jesus Christ.
And, but yeah, my dad, who I hadn't had any contact with, I see my mom. I'm kind of starting to reintegrate without even realizing it. And I'm like, I am going to steal someone's identity to get dentures. This is my fucking great game plan. And she's like, runs that plan by my dad, and we can thank them that I'm not in prison. And my dad takes money out of his annuity and is like, I will pay for it. It's like 10 grand. I will pay for this, but you have to come visit. And so I end up going out to visit. I get on an airplane with a fake ID with my real information. Yeah, I still have the ID. Like, thank God they didn't have the blue lights. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to ditch a meth pipe. So I miss my plane because the printer for the fake ID isn't working. Then it has a big janky line through the middle of this ID. Like the printer just wasn't working in one spot. And I am standing in line. I look like someone who's on drugs. And I look down and realize that there is a dirty meth pipe sticking up out of my bra.
But how? I thought you were clean at this point.
No, when I'm going out to visit in Delaware, no.
You're not, okay.
So the deal for my dad was I'll pay for your top teeth. You come out here and visit, and then we'll do your bottom teeth. And so this is the beginning of me getting clean. I don't know it yet. I have drugs in my pocket, and it's 2004, and I haven't been to an airport since 9/11. So I have no idea that the airport is different now. I mean, I know that 9/11 happened, but I have not flown. I go to ditch the pipe. And I think that standard operating procedure for ditching a meth pipe is very similar to standard operating procedure
Throwing
for
a couple away.
putting a bomb in a trash can. You know, they're looking for this kind of behavior. I slide it down into my sleeve and then I lean my entire arm into the trash can. I switch my plane ticket, and then it's this thing where you got to like walk your bags over behind you to drop them off to the security. While I'm doing that, I turn around and now they have like a group of people surrounding this trash can, searching through it, right? Nobody grabbed me, which is weird. I run to the bathroom. I pull my hair up or down. I tie the coat around my waist, and I eat all the drugs that I have.
What do you have?
I only have like a teener of meth, which is like...
What's a teener?
Like 1.75 grams, like half of an 8-ball. Just where do I relate this? Enough to like stay awake on this trip and not be high. I also had a couple hits of acid and some
You took that too,
dextroamphetamine. I ate all of it.
Jesus Christ! At once?
Yeah.
I'd be scared to sit next to your ass.
I didn't want to throw it away. The acid was bullshit, I guess, because I didn't get fucked up. I and then trapped in the San Francisco airport for 8 hours.
They catch you coming out of the bathroom?
No. My layover is just 8 hours because I had missed my flight. And so now it's the middle of the night. I don't have $5. And so I'm just like twacked out trying to work up the nerve to like shoplift something from like a store at the airport. And I don't. And it's just awful. I then get to the Philadelphia airport. And my whole life I've been flying across the country. I've been flying unaccompanied minor since I was 5. Some of my favorite memories are of running off the plane into my dad's arms, you know?
Yeah.
They don't let people go to the gate
Nope.
anymore. And I don't know that, you know, I don't know that they don't let you go to the gate to meet your 28-year-old daughter. So I get to the gate. I now have been without meth for long enough that I just need to sleep and I pass out.
At the gate?
At the gate. So it takes a long time for my dad to realize what has happened. And so then he has to send someone down to get me. And then, so my dad's like a few years clean at this point. Maybe he's like 6 years clean. And he just manages to not talk about it. Like nobody addresses the elephant in the room, which was so brilliant because eventually I end up saying something. The trip is very surreal in that I don't have any drugs and I'm still smart and I'm still funny. And I'm still happy and I still love myself. And these were all things that I gave credit to meth, right? I thought I would do meth every day for the rest of my life. I had no desire to get clean. And all of a sudden I'm having this kind of paradigm shift where I'm like, could I be happy in society? I loved everything about meth. I didn't care that it was awful. I didn't care that I was intermittently homeless. I didn't care that the violence that happened around me and to me, I didn't care. Like to me, it was like, this is the price of doing business. Other people would like go to detox and shit. And I would be like, give me your drugs. You're wasting them. You know, like you're a pussy. Shit or get off the pot. You know, like just in or out. And I was in. And now all of a sudden I was thinking, am I giving meth credit for things that are just me now? And anyway, it was very strange. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I said to my dad, like the last night, I was like, this is the longest I've been sober in 5 years. And he starts talking about recovery. And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to get clean. I just was saying. He takes me to the airport the next day and he says the smartest thing he could have said, which was, if you get home and life is a little stale, you always have a home here. And if he had said scary or desperate or awful or painful or devastating or any of these words that people associate with the kind of life I led, it would have not clicked at all.
Stale, huh?
But if you want to talk me out of something, imply that I've already done it. Imply that the course has been run. Imply boredom. And I will, I'm so afraid of being in a rut. I'm so afraid of staying on the same track for too long. As my life is all these drastic changes of scenery and stuff. I'm afraid of at the end of my life being like, well, there's a loop I was stuck in for a decade. That's my worst nightmare. And so stale was the word I needed to hear because I get home and my boyfriend has robbed my friends. So now I have to live with him, even though I said I was never going to live with him again because last time he was mean to me. And now I have to live with him again. And then I look at his phone or his camera and he had been fucking his ex-girlfriend. This is all like stale.
Right.
This was all life experience I'd already had. I'd already done all this. And it was like, then we got to try to get the money for the drugs and the blah, blah, blah. And so I kind of just was spending a lot of time thinking about getting out of it. He hit me one more time. And that was it. I was like, I'm not staying here. I still was going to do drugs. I called my dad and said, I want to come back, stay here. And then I made arrangements for someone to mail me meth once a month. And then I got my teeth. I got on my bottom teeth. I got on the airplane.
But isn't that just fucking the teeth up?
Dentures, yeah, we'll eat dentures
It will,
also.
right?
Yeah. But you can buy new dentures. The expensive part was the oral surgery.
Right.
I get on the airplane. I get high one more time before I leave. And then I get on the airplane and I just was like playing the tape forward and was like, I'm going to get ripped off by tweakers. I'm going to send them money. They're going to take the money.
Yeah,
they're going to want to send me the drugs, but they're not. Right. And then if I do get the drugs, am I going to get high by myself in Delaware? Like they don't have meth there. I'll just get sober. And that was it. By the time I got to Delaware, I was just like done. And
how old are you at that point?
20. It's like a week before my 28th birthday.
20th?
28th.
I mean, Jesus Christ, you lived 10 lives in 28 years.
Yeah.
And how many children do you have now?
I have 4. So I have a 24-year-old.
That's the one you had when you were 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a 16-year-old stepson who we're not together anymore, but it's still my stepson. And then the younger two are 8 and 5.
Okay.
And they live with me in LA.
You have two young kids right now.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. You're doing all this out here right now?
Yeah.
So.
And they're homeschooled.
Are they really?
Yeah.
By you?
Mm-hmm.
You homeschool them?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know how to do that? Is there a curriculum that's
it's just
set
all
up?
on the internet. I don't I could have never done it back when it was books and shit.
When
but
your sister-in-law was doing it?
Yeah. No. But now it's just like they log in and I just say like how like the 8-year-old's gifted. And so she does like a grade every 4 months.
Really?
So yeah, she has to be like pushed. Otherwise she gets bored. So we've been really lax with it. I've been letting her spread it out quite a bit, but she still grades ahead, so it's fine.
So at 28, you're clean and sober, and you've been since?
Yeah, I do. I do psychedelics now. I'm not an addict. That took a long time for me to figure out. I got clean. I just recently came out of the closet about this also. I got clean. I moved to Delaware. My dad's in recovery. And I remember I was just done. I had no desire to use. I was just like, I decided not to do it anymore. I just wasn't going to do it anymore, which isn't very addict-like. And then I was coming down, which takes months of like this, like buzzes in your brain and it's not as bad as heroin, but it's a process. And I remember my dad playing pool and him taking me to a bar and him being like, is it hard to be at a bar? And me thinking, does he think I'm never going to drink? Like, I'm going to drink. I just want to finish coming down first because alcohol's a downer, you know? And then I had crippling social anxiety. That was the worst thing that happened. Well, I did stare at the sun. Oh, we forgot that story.
What?
I did stare at the sun. So I have burnt maculas while I was high on meth.
You stared at it with your eyes open?
For 4 hours.
No.
Yeah.
And it burned your eyes?
Yeah.
So what happened?
I'm lucky I'm not blind.
Yeah.
Like from what the doctors tell me.
What is that? How does it affect you?
If you look at that light bulb for a second, for like 20 seconds, and then look away, and you see that flashing blue and red. So I just have that permanently.
Permanently? Mm-hmm. Every time you blink, you see that?
Yeah. I mean, I can see it right now. It covers up like the black
Holy
part of your eye.
Shit.
One eye is worse than the other one. And the macula also controls the fine detail that you see. So like if there's multiple brunette dudes in a show, I can't tell who's who. It kind of gives me a form of like face blindness, like a mental thing. But like, and then I had 20/20 vision. It fucked up my vision because my eyes are always trying to maneuver around the blind spot. So it's a dumb conspiracy theory I had.
How are you doing comedy at this time, or are you not?
I'm not. So I quit doing comedy about a month into meth because I hallucinated that I saw a crawdad on stage in Walla Walla. And
that was a wrap, huh?
Man, I was bombing. I've lost weight super fast, and all my jokes were about being chunky. And then, because I've been doing comedy full time, but I've only been doing comedy for 9 months at this point. And Walla Walla, Washington was one of these rooms where it's like 150 people. They treat you like a rock star. You know, they all want to fuck you and be your friend and everything else. And they all laugh at every single thing. I'd already done this room and crushed. I get here. I'm skinny. Because I've done a ton of drugs already. And, all my jokes are about being fat. So it's off-putting. And then, there's no inflection. There's no delivery. I'm just saying the words from the jokes, and it's awful. And they're all staring at me like, what the fuck? And then some giant crawdad scorpion thing starts walking towards me, and I stop. And
did you really see
it?
I
react to it. I mean, it didn't exist, but I saw it. And then I react to it and then stare at it for a minute, long enough to realize, like, okay, that's not real. And then have to look back and realize there's an audience.
Staring at you,
staring at me, staring at this thing, right? And I'm sure I went like, and it jumped. And so I end up running off the stage crying and locking myself in the bathroom. And then that club owner told me that I could have my money or my hotel room, or bar owner, because I didn't earn both. And so I really needed a hotel room because I needed a fucking nap, but I need the money because I needed another teener. So I took the money and then I drove home asleep. I was sleep driving through the fucking gorge. I don't know if you've ever been through the gorge in Oregon.
Gorge of George.
And in my head...
Oh, that's in Washington, the where I'm talking about.
It is on both
Columbia
sides.
River there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm driving, and in my head, I'm in and out of this like twilight sleep. And in my head, I'm being guided by the trucks with their lights are driving my car. In reality, they were just flashing their lights because I was going 6 miles an hour. I have no idea how I didn't die. That's one of these like... life is a video game. I do start to get pulled over at one point. A cop stops me and I wake up enough and the adrenaline kicks in and I realize I'm being pulled over, and then someone just flies by so fucking fast that the cop pulls out from behind me.
Oh, you got lucky.
Yeah. I had no idea how I lived through that night. Like, that is one of the scariest things that I ever did.
So you're so open with all of this. How do you tell your kids not to do this stuff? Or is it just like, listen to what I've been through and it should be enough for you? Like, what's the...
I give my kids a very honest... I teach my kids honestly and openly about everything. And so the oldest one, I taught her what I told you about drugs, which is weed is not the same thing as pills. Here's why pills seem cool.
But she listens to this stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
she did at one point decide that she wanted to party a little bit harder. Back when I thought I was an addict, I was very afraid of her becoming an addict, you know, and projected a lot of that stuff on her and like one of my sisters and stuff. And I was stricter than I would be now. But it was hard to keep her off of weed in high school. And she like couldn't smoke weed and not get kicked out of school every fucking day. So I was like, you have to stay sober. So I'd like drug test her and stuff and like bribe her through high school. And I'm glad I did that because I do think she had a little bit of a tendency toward that. She's grateful that I made it so difficult. And then she was partying pretty hard right out of high school. And I was like, you can't live here and do that. You know, people ask me all the time, like, how do I help my kid who's on drugs? And I'm like, kick him to the curb. And if your kid's on heroin, that's fucking awful and scary because they might die. But they have to go figure it out without the comfort of your home is the most dangerous place. And so, she partied like, rave partied for like 6 months. And then, you know, she smokes weed. She's fine. She's a mom. And she's a mom. Yeah.
Oh, you're a grandma?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
Look at you
Thank
go. You're doing great. So clean and sober for how long?
I quit meth in 2005.
It's a long time.
And then I didn't do anything for like 7 years. And then I tried mushrooms and then didn't do anything again for years. And then in this last year, I've done like acid and stuff. It took me a long time to get to the conclusion that I'm not an addict. And I hate alcohol, and weed makes me self-conscious. Like I don't like most substances. And like I said, I think psychedelics serve a different purpose. So I'll do those. Plus that's very, you're not doing acid every week.
Right.
But I just like being sober. I figured out how to do all these things sober that now I feel like, why would I add alcohol to the mix?
Right.
I figured out how to be in social situations without it. I think weed is medicine. I'm very pro weed. It just doesn't do anything but freak me the fuck out.
I hear you now. But that's because scientists are growing this shit now, not farmers. These guys are fucking taking it to another level.
I think different people have different chemistry, and I know so many people who don't have to be on psych meds because they're able to treat their own depression with weed and stuff. I think that's fucking fantastic. My mom has RA. It is the best medicine she's ever had. So I'm super pro weed. It just doesn't. It just makes me self-conscious and hungry.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. I mean, you have been... We stopped and took a bathroom break, and I just shaking my head over here like you are something else. You really are. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you. This is
Thank
great.
you for being open and honest. I mean, you're the first person I've ever talked to that's died, and a lot of that drug stuff is first time for me, too. Yeah, you're really something else. Thank you so much, for real. It's been awesome to sit and talk to you.
Thank you.
Will you please, one more time, anything you want to promote, your podcast, your website, all of it?
Mormon and the Meth Head is the podcast. That's the biggest thing. Start at the beginning. It is an unfolding story that won't make a lot of sense otherwise. And then we are touring the East Coast and the Midwest coming up soon. So just jessareed.com.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you being here. As always, Ryan Sickler on all social media, ryansickler.com. Talk to y'all next Wednesday.